EOS Go presents EOS Radio, your first source for everything about the new blockchain Internet of Value. You'll hear from key contributors to EOS, including interviews with block.one, dApp development teams, and block producers. You'll get community updates and answers to common questions, meetup information, opportunities to get involved in EOS, and much more. We're live every Monday at 6 p.m. EST, and now it's time for your hosts, Kev and Bluejays, in 3, 2, 1.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. Today is May 14th. Welcome, Kev. How are you doing today?
Hello, Blue Jays. Doing well. How about you? How's your Monday?
Oh, I just had a great weekend, and I'm just ready to get kicked off this week and have a blast and get down to work.
Yeah, I'm loving your new hairstyle there. It looks good. You high and tight. It's going up. You look like Elvis.
Just take a whole bunch of hair off because, it's summer.
Yeah, why not? I get you.
Yeah.
And it looks like today we have a great show, of course, as usual. So we have EOS Tribe coming on shortly. And EOS Tribe, they're based in the United States. And then after them, we have EOS SOCAL, which stands for Southern California. So 2 United States block producers. We don't usually see too many from the U.S. lately, but we have a packed show today. And then, of course, we have the arbitration panel with Thomas Cox and 6 block producer candidates. They will be on third. And then we have EOSUnion. It's a pre-recorded interview, with EOSUnion in Beijing, China. It's very early in the morning for them, so they wanted to pre-record it. It was a great interview. I think you talked to them, Blue Jays.
Yeah, we had a great interview, and they're one of those candidates that are very community focused, more so than normal. So it's good to see something like that. It looks like it's going to be a great show. I think we have the EOS Tribe team coming up soon, and I think they'll be coming on very soon.
Yep, certainly looks like it. And thank you for joining me there, Blue Jays. We have a couple weeks coming up here till launch, huh? Only 14, 15 more days. Is that what we're looking at? Maybe 17 days or so, but...
Yep, it's
Wow.
coming up. And of course, we've promised that we would be doing a live stream and more details to come on that. Kevin, I believe we were talking about that today, and it looks like very exciting, and we'll send out details very soon. Yeah,
it's going to be an international community live stream that we're shooting for. The biggest party on earth for EOS launch is what we'll probably call it. And we'll see how it turns out.
Yep. Looks like we have we have Eugene from Tribes on here.
Hey guys, yes, I'm here.
Hey Eugene, how you doing?
Good.
Good. Are we still waiting for Steve? We'll be waiting for Steve Floyd as well, right?
Yep.
I think so, yeah. I'm having a technical issue right now, but bear with me here. Can you still hear me, Blue Jays?
I still can hear you, yes.
All right. Well, if I go down, then you know what to do.
Yep. I hope you can make it back there, Kev.
Okay. Don't worry about me too much.
Okay.
If I go down, then you know what to do.
Yep. Hope you can make it back there, Kev. Hey,
Okay.
Steve. It looks like we have an echo on, so if anyone's broadcast has the show on, please turn it off or put it on mute. Make it back there, Kev. Hey,
Okay.
Steve. It looks like... All right, awesome. Hey, welcome, guys. Welcome, Steve. Welcome, Eugene. Thanks for joining us today. Kev, it looks like you're back and you have some motion in your face there, so that's good. Welcome, guys. How are you guys doing today, Steve and Eugene?
Good. Thank you for inviting us. It's great to be on your show again.
Oh, and of course, Eugene, you were on the last BP panel. And Steve, I believe we had you on a long time ago when you were announcing the meetup out in San Francisco.
EOS Rise, yes.
Yes. How are you guys doing today?
Good.
Great. Busy, getting ready for the launch, but it's exciting time.
Yeah. Kev, you want to give them the how the format goes?
Yeah. Hey, guys. Good to see you. We just mentioned you guys are from the United States. And, of course, we'd like to learn more about where you're from and what your backgrounds are, who you guys are and what makes you so passionate about EOS, and where you see everything going as well. So go ahead. Where are you guys from?
I'll let Eugene start.
Okay, so I'm based in Utah, but before that I lived in Bay Area for about 10 years. And before that I lived in I grew up in Russia, Far East, close to Asia and China, so I kind of understand that culture as well. I spent about 20 years in IT and software industry, some banking IT experience as well. And when I learned about blockchain, it's like, once you make it into, once you're in for life. I just got hooked, and that's what That's what I want to do. So I learned about EOS about a year ago. I started experimenting. I ran a single node first before, and then this community just, exploded, right? End of last year and this year, it's been super exciting time for me. And I just enjoy working with everyone, and this community is great. It's like my new family, basically.
Agreed.
Well summarized. Yeah. And Steve, how about yourself?
So I come from kind of a creative background. I started out my career as a designer and kind of, worked my way into web development, because in the early 2000s, if you were trying to get by on print design, you didn't have a job. So I learned to code and kind of have a background in early Scheme and DOS and, early computer systems, being in my early 40s. So I do have like somewhat of a traditional background. I can't code calculus and, C++ like some of these guys, but I know enough to be dangerous, a lot of DevOps functions, and just running an agency, you kind of have to understand the full stack of how to deploy, a product for a client and how to service them, how to manage perceptions. The sale to actually just the actual launch date is an entire process. And, I'm well-versed for the last 17, 18 years in that industry. So primarily user experience, I would say. Content strategy is what I'm known for. And a little bit of DevOps and, marketing. I think my generation was kind of pre-growth hacker. So if you could code and you knew technical SEO and like how to get stuff to rank, they didn't know what to call you, because you're either a spreadsheet person or you were a developer. But if you were somewhere in the middle, they didn't know where to put you. Now it's a whole role, but that's probably what if you were trying to place my value and understand what I do, I'm probably a first generation growth engineer. I prefer that word over hacker, because a hacker doesn't fully understand the system that they're wielding. I try to understand the systems that I use or that I'm a part of. And Eugene, you guys know I pulled out my candidacy back in February for EOS Dallas for many reasons, legal reasons. I had concerns about the system, and my partner just wasn't the right fit. He was approaching it from a minor perspective, and I had a few people try to recruit me, and so did Eugene. And we just kind of we're like, why don't we just do our own thing, and we don't have to be under everyone's umbrella, and we can just have our little tribe. That's kind of where the name came from, and what brought us to this point. So
we should definitely point out, Steve, you mentioned content strategy and design. I mean, you made two of the best websites we've seen in EOS thus far. Of course, the Shintai website first, and then now the EOS Tribe website they're beautiful. So
I still got it. I'm not useless yet. You know what I mean? I think in your 40s, you have this like innate fear that you kind of, as you move up the ladder and you just drive more strategy and not manage as many inputs, you lose your vocation a little bit. And you wonder, what got me here? Like, am I just like a professional speaker now? Is that what I am? And, that's what's been the biggest gift of the EOS ecosystem, is a chance to get back to my roots and show that value so people could really see the context of like who I was. And I'm not one of these guys that's like, oh, I was a big guy in this industry, so I should get all that over here. I started over like a scrub. I didn't expect any handouts from the community. I gave my time and supported, just like the early WordPress or Linux communities did, and I know how that works being a part of those early communities. So I didn't come in with any attitude or expectation. I mean, of course I want to have my stuff promoted if I can. Like, you can't blame me for that. But other than that, I'm happy to get back to those things. And I appreciate that very much, Kevin.
Steve, talking about that early WordPress and Linux, you've mentioned that before. Could you expand on that? I've heard you say that it's like EOS is going to be like a WordPress. Can you explain that?
So if you think back to like the early 2000s, like right before Zeldman and them came out with like the definitive first like web standard, you know what I mean, for CSS, and removing, everything, the content from just everything being an inline mess. You know what I mean? If you remember that era, it was horrible to work in these like table-based sites because it was really tedious to manage. And all these people in the early like WordPress and Drupal communities were like, this is the internet of ideas. This is going to change the world. And those very theme developers ended up the big fish by the end of the business cycle. By 2009 to 2012, they were the big dogs. Like And they were the early movers that believed. People hated, people were like, no one's ever going to use an open source content management system. These aren't secure. No one's going to put their user information in. And sure enough, by like 2005, 2006, it was the standard. You know, I ditched Joomla and Mambo and the early proprietary systems we were using almost exclusively for Drupal and you know, and WordPress. And I just barely missed like that early mover by a few years, and my agency thrived, but I was never able to get any products to get enough traction, because you really have to be in that meritocracy, you know, to get the referrals and the influencers to really support your stuff. It's just the way that it works. And when I saw EOS, I was like, this feels just like that. You know, everyone's hating on it. No one understands the throughput or how the system works. Not that I'm an expert by any means, but compared to the average person coming on, that's just like Win Moon, you know, I try to explain the basics and explain to them, you don't understand, like this or a flavor of it is going to be very much what we all build on in this new like Web 3.0 everyone talks about. And, you know, it's going to be a tokenized economy. People are going to use apps that they enjoy using and interact with people, and they're going to get tokens for doing that. And they're going to be able to trade out those tokens on the open market. So a kid who's like, I was just talking about this on Fuzzy's show, a kid who's like 11 years old, we don't need universal income. You know, we could literally have kids just using the dApps they like, and they own their inputs, and their value gets paid out. By the time they're 20, 19, they've got enough to pay for college. Mm-hmm. So this tokenized economy has a lot of, I mean, like Dan says, it could fix a lot of inefficiencies, even beyond EOS, just interchain communication, cross-chain communication, all these innovations that are coming out around EOS. You notice like 70% of the conversation that people are talking about doing, Dan and them are actually doing it. You know, it's going to be released and we're going to test this thing out, while other people are 2 or 3 years out in theory. So that's like, when I see that, it sounds similar to that same conversation people were having around WordPress and Drupal, where people were like, that's not going to happen. All these innovations were happening in this event-driven system, you know, that WordPress became. It didn't have the plugins or the community, but they saw that. Like, they saw what an event-driven architecture like that could do and where PHP was headed, when everyone else didn't think it was possible. They knew, and that's what I see is very similar to what's going on right now in EOS. And anybody who's on the fence, in just 2 or 3 years, you're going to be like, dang it, I should have got involved. Like, I tell everybody, like, I evangelize it 24/7. My family thinks I'm crazy.
We may have found someone who's more passionate than Bluejays and I about EOS. And let's make sure we dive in a little bit to EOS Tribe as well. Hear more about what you guys are accomplishing and what the background is for EOS Tribe.
I'll let Eugene lead with kind of the vision and missions.
Yeah, so, you know, as you know, I started initially, you know, on the kind of EOS SLC, Meetup, Umbrella, and worked with technical guys. Even before we announced, you know, BP candidacy, we were involved in kind of test nets and, you know, technical testing and just doing some development as well, right? And for EOS and kind of projects around related to API and wallet application for EOS. One of the problems that I was kind of, you know, passionate about is key management. It's one of the biggest problems in cryptocurrency world in general, to keep it secure and to manage it in a secure and easy way at the same time. That's what will become a catalyst for people, you know, adopting wallets and use wallets more than just exchanges, you know. And so I met Steve, and, you know, and that's when I saw he had what I was lacking, basically. You know, I just wanted to have my head into technical stuff. You know, that's what I'm passionate about. You know, I work on technical code, but may not be. I realized at some points that block producer role is very unique role, and it kind of mixes two distinct and different qualities: is being technically, you know, savvy enough to actually maintain a node and keep up the network and keep it secure at the same time, right? So it's performance, security, lots of technical skills, you know, some DevOps skills. You know, it takes some, you know, expert level, and at the same time you have to be a good marketing, good politicians, I would argue as well, right? So there's lots of aspects. You need to have this personality, which you rarely find in one person. You just rarely find. And I think Steve and I have, this good tandem in terms of, our qualities that we kind of fulfill each other, where like I lack, Steve, compensate, and vice versa, right? So that's why I think we work well together, and Steve has a good technical understanding as well. And I have some business education, so I can understand business when we talk about business. So I think we're a good tribe,
I would add to that right where I leave off in terms of like back-end programming, like he knows. So I am somewhat, technical. Eugene will say like I can build out like pretty impressive hardware specifications. I can look at a schematic of the system and get down to the nuts and bolts. But it comes to coding, like I said, custom calculus on the fly off the top of my head. I'm not Bart, and I'm not like, and I don't think many people are like Dan and Bart. Like, but yeah, like that level or even Eugene's level, I'm not going to be one of these guys out here acting like I can. And those are areas I'm not. I'm a designer. I'm a design strategist. That's what I do. I don't claim to be a back-end architecture or systems guy. So, I will leave that to Eugene.
Yeah.
I'll handle it. Fair enough. I mean, that's why you guys work so well together. So what do you guys have in store? Like, what is EOS Tribe about, and what do you guys have coming up?
So let me...
Go ahead.
I'll start first, and then I'll hand it to Steve. Basically, what we are doing right now is I'm kind of trying to spearhead an effort to build a kind of a secure cluster of BP nodes, which are basically top block producing candidates, which establish a secure network of VPN nodes, and we have that mesh network established pre-launch, and configured securely, so that no DDoS attacks and hacking will be possible against those nodes. And then we can just plug in on June 2nd when we go live, like this whole mesh network will just plug in into the process and will light up, right? And then election process will determine who will be actually producing node, blocks, and who will be just a full node, right? But the network will still remain intact and secure. So we kind of have this hybrid approach of a secure cluster and a boot process around it, basically. So that's one project that we're working on, to get it in. That's kind of priority one. We are laying down our own infrastructure, and we are configuring it like this week and next, basically, to have it all in place, and test it well before we go live. Then shortly after, there is a project I'm working on related to EOS Wallet application, and some of you have seen it. I kind of keep it under radar because it's not great, but there's a web wallet application that I plan to get back to and launch shortly after EOS, mainnet is launched, and then there's a mobile wallet application development ongoing effort as well, where I actually have a remote team of developers in Eastern Europe helping me to build it, and some good designers as well. So that's what I have on my side, and Steve has his projects as well, so I'll let him cover.
I mean, one of the ones that that is kind of an ongoing thing is just design and data visualizations to help people understand how EOS works and kind of the history. I'm working with another designer and 2 other team members that we will be announcing here in the next week or 2 that we are bringing onto the tribe that handle different roles like social media and community, and another role for design, because it's impossible to design all this stuff. I've basically designing for 5 projects right now, and 2 of them are in EOS Essentials and several other dApps that I'm consulting with. And it's tough to design everything that needs to go out. And I also want to raise the quality of the design. to kind of meet the standard that's already been put out there. And to do that consistently, it's tough. So that's something that we're excited about. And I've just been the last week trying to like make that transition and get those people onboarded so they know our production schedule and kind of what's needed. Beyond that, you know, so I'm trying to get a lot of preparation for our 2 announcements. One, our code of conduct, you know, it's going to go out tonight, and then a roadmap of our existing projects and some of the 8 projects that we have. The main one that I am like a personal part of and is a kind of a you know, a personal legacy project is EOS tutorials. And I think, you know, EOS docs came out and people were like, well, isn't this like that? And it's like, I don't really think so, because I think EOS docs is going to be geared more towards like the definitive documentation for developers, whereas EOS tutorials is meant for more entry level to intermediate people who need it spelled out. Like they need a video, just like you know, just like webtoots.com. Like that's why we designed it that way, was to make it accessible for those entry level people. And that's one of the biggest complaints that I've heard in the ecosystem is like, all this stuff is great, but you guys are asking me to jump into coding C++, and Dan and them like it because they're like, well, hey, the cost of entry, you know, that's the price of the ticket. But it's also like we need to do what we can to lower that barrier of entry for people out there who may just be entry-level, mid-level Solidity developers, you know, or people who have just written a few contracts and are just getting the hang of it. If we make it really easy for them to get in and start using Cleos and start, you know, adding, playing with EOS.js, and there's like super simple, I mean like ABC tutorials. That's what EOS tutorials is about. You know, having married to video, oversized text, mobile first, like all that stuff. Not that EOS portals isn't, but it's purely going to be like, that's where the real devs go. They want to know, hey, how do I do this thing? And they're going to go to that. They don't want all that extra fluff. So they both serve, I think, you know, a good part in the community and can solve different problems. So other than that, just new design projects that I've got under wraps of just like really cool infographics and data visualizations and cool interactive stuff that we're working on, that pre and post mainnet launch, that a lot of people I think are really going to like. You know what I mean? Like this is some of the best work I personally, from an infographic, like data visualization standpoint, I'm an agency person, so we create a lot of those to get links, you know, for PR and to highlight people in their industry. This is the first one that I've done that I've been like a kid in a candy store that I'm just like, oh, this is so cool. You know, like usually it's something boring. It's like, you know, the history of the medical industry or something. This is like the history of EOS. And I'm like, probably a little too into it.
Well, that's all the demand you have for designing probably comes from those websites to begin with, but I know there's a lot going on in the background you're probably working on as well. We should also mention your introduction post for EOS Tribe. You guys mentioned one of the most interesting things I think I've seen, the Cube satellite program for part of the future. I would love to hear more about that.
Let me just say up front, before Eugene says anything, we know to the community, like this is a 2 or 3 year legacy project, and it may never even get off the launch pad. They still have to approve it at the international level. The point is, the blockchain, the Blockstream people and the Bitcoin people have taken those steps, and they're at the 20-yard line, and we could do that too. Mm-hmm. We're just trying to introduce that into the lexicon of the ecosystem so people can, you know, who are part of EOS think big like that. They're like, wow, we really could get academic support and block producers and, you know, and entrepreneurs to add in on this, put the money up, pay off the people that at least get it to, you know, review, and, you know, try to get us a full node in space. You know, why not?
And, you know, I would like to add on a technical side, I think it's a great idea. And honestly, it's not an original idea, to be honest. Bitcoin, you know, is doing it as well. And so the main functions, just to kind of, so people understand, the main function of a satellite is double. First is, you know, a full node backup in case if, you know, who knows, catastrophic event, right?
The world blows up,
goes dark, right? So we have a copy in a satellite left. And a second is it will stream a blockchain information as a radio signal back to Earth. So even in remote places where you may not have internet connection, we actually have access to EOS blockchain. Would not that be cool, right? And if we can get community passionate about it and chip in, right, it will take some expense. That could be probably the coolest projects all of us have done in our lifetime, right? Something we can be proud of and talk to our grandkids about, like, hey, we launched satellite, you know, and then that's not that expensive, to be honest. If you do some research, if you look into it, like, you know, commercial, small satellites, we are not talking about like what NASA is launching, but a small satellite, very specialized function, you know, we are talking 40, 50K hardwares and a launch expense, and we can shop around too, right? So there are private companies, there are other countries that we can go to that can serve as a launch platform. So it is feasible project. It's not only something crazy, it's very feasible.
And it may take time, you know, but it's still possible. And I just want to stress that. People are like, yo, I really think you're going to, well, no, we know it's going to take a process. We need to come out with a white paper. We need to like get some of the academic community involved. We need to get BP support. But those are things that Eugene is actively working on. This is kind of Eugene's legacy project. I mean, his dream would be, you know, in 3 or 4 years when the big establishments start coming in for BPs, and, you know, that would be the perfect like cherry on top to just be like, okay, well, we put a node in space. So.
Mm-hmm. And so I have the sentiment, right? My initial degree was in theoretical physics. And I wanted to, like, when I was growing up back in school, I actually wanted to be a physicist, right? I wanted to be a physicist. And then I moved to computer science because that's what pays. And doing something like satellite is not only cool, it's actually also rubbing kind of like on a scientist side.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And we have to do, well, in terms of where people can community members can keep up with you guys, where should they follow? Where should they follow EOS Tribe? Is it Twitter or Steam or website?
EOStribe.io has pretty much all of our block producer candidacy information. That's EOSTRIBE.io is probably the central place to get all of our most current information. We'll have some updates rolling out there this week, and it's got all of our project info, our BP announcement. It translates automatically for different people in different countries, so that's probably the best place to find our information.
Wow. Cool. Well, it's great meeting you guys, and you guys have a neat thing going. I like how you call yourselves the Tribe.
Yep.
It sounds like it's working well. So, yeah, thank you guys for coming on.
Thanks,
guys. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. It was a pleasure. Good night.
Have a good night. Wow, that was a good interview. I love that satellite program. As soon as I read that in their intro post, I was like, man, that's interesting, because like you said, it's not as expensive as you really expect.
Yeah, just throw it in the back of one of those Teslas that they're launching into the air, right? That's what
Something like that. Yeah, just ask Elon, tweet him, be like, hey, at Elon Musk, mind if we throw a little satellite in the back of that Tesla there in the trunk?
Yeah, can I just pop the trunk for a second? All right.
Yeah.
I guess we got EOS LA coming up. Caesar, and I believe he's bringing a teammate with him. So
yeah, sounds good. They're coming to EOS SoCal. They're coming up pretty soon here. Let's see if we can get them in. So what do you know about EOS SoCal? They're based in Los Angeles. Is that where it is?
Yes. Yep. And Alex, that's it. Hey, Alex. I met Alex before, and he's just has a newborn baby that he's trying to get some sleep, and I can totally relate. Hey, Alex, how you doing?
Hey, doing well.
Yeah, great to meet you. And it's a beautiful picture you have in the background there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can see the decorations.
I see them, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, guys. Caesar, how you doing?
Hey, Caesar.
Very good. How's it going?
Kevin, did you catch that behind there?
It's just a hedron back there. I see a couple of them, I think.
Yeah. This thing's heavy duty. It's made of steel.
Wow.
Yeah.
It doubles as a weapon in case there's an intruder. It just doubles.
That's right.
Maximum security. Well, great to have you guys. And we were just asking, and you probably know our question format by now. We just like to know where you guys are from and what your backgrounds are and where you see everything going. So where are you guys located?
So we're here next to LA. So we are EOS SoCal. I know it said EOS LA right on your thing there. But yeah, we're just about 45 minutes east of Los Angeles. And, we participate in a lot of the events going on in the LA area, which is basically the hub of it all. So yeah, just trying to encompass Southern California and supporting as much as we can in the area.
Oh, good. Yeah. So, Caesar, I apologize about that. We'll try and fix that. But you guys are EOS SoCal, and we're glad to have you guys on. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, guys. Pleasure.
Yeah. So, like we were talking about before, just let us know a little bit about yourselves individually, and then we can go on to what EOS SoCal is all about.
Awesome. Yeah. So my background, so my position in EOS SoCal, I'm founder and I manage strategy. I'm hands-on with a lot of our initiatives right now. I'm an entrepreneur by trade. I recently sold the company and ended up starting an investment fund and began investing in a lot of the cryptos, Bitcoin, Ethereum, looking at some of the altcoins, studying them. And we have this facility here with some space and some good electricity, so we decided to give mining a shot. So we got some ASICs back there. Alex helped us put some of the Ethereum nodes together, so we're mining Ethereum as well. And also got involved with some large-scale mining up in Washington. So when EOS got announced, we pretty much left everything else and jumped to support EOS full-time.
Yeah, and I'm Alex, and I'm the head of tech with EOS SoCal. And so I'm kind of in charge of everything that's tech related, and right now that means block production. As Caesar said, the two of us, we've been very interested in crypto for some time. And it was, I don't know, about a year and a half ago or so that we really started to explore the different chains and tokens and technologies. And as he said, we've got a few different mining nodes in the back. And so after we did start mining Ethereum and looking into it, it had a lot of really, really interesting things that pulled us in, but a huge amount of, not a huge amount, but some very glaring flaws also that we picked up on right from the get-go. And while both of us were fans of Larimer's, it was after he had announced EOS and we saw everything that EOS did kind of solve that Ethereum was lacking in. That's when we decided to go really headfirst into the EOS atmosphere. Back to the present, we've just been really focusing on this huge sprint that all the other candidates have been doing, and that's been kind of learning the waters, all the technical waters, keeping up with all the updates, and just trying to perfect the art of block production right now.
I think I'm starting to realize you guys are on opposite ends of the office. I think it's the couch back there.
Yeah.
Yep, good observation.
Yeah, we got to position ourselves a little bit away from the nodes in the back, because otherwise it's quite a bit. It's a bit too loud. Yeah.
I got you. Okay, cool. Yeah, and so you guys formed EOS SoCal. You became obsessed with EOS. We've heard about that a couple times from people.
Yes.
Don't know anybody like that. And so what are your guys' plans in terms of when you look into EOS and looking forward to election? What is EOS SoCal planning to do?
Sure. So right now we're involved in just trying to support any way we can. I think what makes us a little bit unique from a lot of these other candidates is that, you know, our main goal is to support EOS, and regardless of the elections, whether we're block producers or not, we're still going to be supporters. And that involves, you know, development, developing tools, really doing anything we can. For example, we're doing workshops trying to help people get their hands, developers get their hands on EOS, users also learn how to navigate. As you all know, it's a pretty difficult learning curve. So, for example, we have a workshop here coming up on May 17th. It's on Thursday. It's in Santa Monica. You can look at the details on our website at EOSOCAL.io, EOSOCAL.io. And we're joining with Sensei out of Santa Monica. And the agenda involves learning how to register tokens, among other development-related things. So aside from all that, we're trying to figure out how can we help this whole ecosystem. And right now, we're developing tools. Recently, we announced the transparency and accountability dashboard, which was a tool that we designed to adopt ourselves to offer transparency and accountability to the token holders who vote for the block producers. And we made it open source, so hopefully any other block producer out there that wants to offer transparency and accountability can grab this open source tool and offer the same. Also, we've been working hard developing an app, or a DApp, and we're hoping to announce it here on your show today. So we're pretty excited about that.
Yeah, we'd love for you to announce it.
Oh, awesome! Yeah. So maybe before we dive into that, Alex, do you want to maybe talk about a little bit of our efforts related to the whole block production and what we're doing there?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, it was a few months ago. We wanted to really get involved in the community test nets. We wanted to get our hands dirty with exactly what it would take to become a BP. So we had launched our local nodes, but we wanted to join up with others. So we kind of ventured over into the superhero, or the community testnet Telegram group, and at the time it was full. There's too many people filling up those 21 spots in order to test. So there was a kind of a collection of us who were just waiting for somebody to bow out and free up some space. So at that time, I had made a post expressing my interest in launching a secondary net, and one in which could take everybody else who was interested. Actually, it was at that time that a Dennis with EOS Nation, he had reached out to me, and the two of us decided to kind of pursue launching a secondary testnet. After he and I kind of got our hands dirty and figuring out exactly what it would take, two others, Meet1 and EOS Canon, they joined up with us. And after just a little bit of time, we launched the Scholar testnet. And I think that was the second prominent testnet that was out there. I know Jungle came out right around that same time as well. Since we've had the testnets, since we've had that testnet going, we've been very active in all the other BP launch groups. Right now, that means the BP infrastructure group has been just really, really going off with all the candidates doing research and voicing their opinions about security and what exactly is going to be required of both the producing block producers and the backups in terms of security, in terms of hardware that's required to run this. And aside from that, I know EOS Canada has got just an amazing bit of software going for the BIOS. And so we've been working really hard with them, participating in all these, they're doing these staged launches leading up to the actual mainnet. So assuming that the community does rally behind this approach to the BIOS, I just encourage all other block producers to be joining us there and to participate in all these stage launches, so that all of us can just have the necessary experience in order to launch this.
Awesome. Certainly sounds like that. Yeah, that's been going that direction. We've heard a lot of great feedback about the BIOS boot software from EOS Canada, and we've had a few other block producer candidates mention that as well. We should also mention another community project you guys have worked on would be the block producer portal. You helped Joe from EOS Asia, our very own block producer portal that focusing on research block producers on. So thank you very much, by the way.
Thank you for mentioning that. Appreciate it.
That's really great. And and we should talk about your secret project. Nobody wants to hear about that, I'm sure.
So we've been working pretty hard to get this out, so we're excited about it. So it's a DApp built on EOS, and the whole purpose is to revive barter. So barter's been quite an inefficient process. When the internet came, it made the process a little easier, where people can actually communicate online. And from our perspective, blockchain is going to take that to the next level. And what our app does is it takes the inefficient process. For example, today, barter might consist of me going on Craigslist or maybe some other DApp that puts users together, and I would have to send a message saying, hey, I got this item and I want to trade it for yours. So what our app does is it makes the negotiation process silent. So it's silent and systematic, where you would actually send trade offers and receive trade offers with no verbal communication. The app is called Trade Stuff. You can take a look at it on tradestuff.com. And the whole idea is that there's no money involved, and thanks to Dan Larimer's amazing vision, there's no fees for usage either. So anybody can trade without having to pay fees. In fact, we're thinking about models where you can actually get paid to trade. So that's where it gets really interesting. And the whole idea is that normally you would have to find somebody to trade with where there's a coincidence of wants, meaning you got an item and I got an item. So for a trade to happen, we have to want each other's item. And we aim to solve this by allowing complex trades where you might not want the item I have, but I would send that in one direction and then he sends it in another direction. So 1,000 trades later, I'll get the item I wanted from you without having to have an item that you wanted. And further, you can split value. So say you have a $20 item. I might not have one $20 item. I might have 4 $5 items, and I'll send those 4 in different directions, not to you. And ultimately, I'll get your $20 item. So it allows multilateral indirect trading. It allows individual and bundled trades. Further, under the traditional trade model, you would have to trust one another. So thanks to blockchain, it provides a lot of the security features, such as prevention of double spending. So if I enter an agreement with you, that wouldn't happen elsewhere. Further, the model is really interesting, where if, say, for example, you want to trade a $10 item, you would stake $10 in EOS, and we would use that EOS to power both the bandwidth and use it as collateral for the item. So it becomes scalable from a computational resources standpoint, as well as if you don't send me your item, then I can take you to arbitration and take your stake. So it serves various purposes, and further, since there's an excess of stake compared to what the computational requirements are, then we can take that excess computational power and lease it. So that's where you would generate an income using third-party apps like Chintai that proposes to allow token holders to lease out their computational resources. So in this case, we can generate income while you have a stake in there, and you might even make money for trading. So these are some of the models that are just amazing that are possible on EOS. So.
And we were talking on the pre-call, and you mentioned that the guy who had the red paperclip, as I mentioned in your white paper, he traded all the way up to a house, right?
So this guy goes on Craigslist, starts with a red paperclip, trades it for a pen, and then trades that for something else, keeps going up in value, ends up with a house. So that's motivation for this product, and we have that story on our website. So that proves the value of barter. It's just the problem is it's so inefficient, and we aim to solve all those issues and bring it back.
This sounds really exciting, and I'm just looking at your website now. I believe you've made it so that the regular person can understand what's going on there. Definitely. And definitely get some adoption. That would be awesome.
Yeah, the idea was, and I borrowed this from Dan Larimer, where he says, these products should be user-friendly and not necessarily meant to say, hey, here's a blockchain product. Rather, here's an app. And similar to Steam, where anybody can read and interact with these articles, we did mention blockchain, but the whole idea is, hey, it's a trade, it's a barter system, it's an efficient barter system. And by the way, it's powered by EOS. Yeah. So there is no ICO right now or distribution. What we care about the most is we're hoping that this product is, will make us billionaires, but not from the monetary sense, rather the Brock Pierce definition of changing 1 billion lives. And we hope that this will monetize the otherwise devalued items that you have around. So rather than having to sell them, if I could use the value of old pair of sunglasses to acquire other products in the marketplace, we feel that we can generate value for many people around the world. So we hope that this is one of those billionaire apps.
Yeah, absolutely. Craigslist definitely changed how people traded stuff, and trade stuff is going to change that now. So
we hope so.
Must be fun designing a token economics model. You mentioned possibly paying people to trade. Can you just grab a little bit more about that?
Sure. So the way we would generate income is by having your collateral. So in this case, if you're trading sunglasses that are valued at $20, you're required to put up an equivalent value of EOS tokens. So that might be one token. And we use that same token to power the computational resources of the app itself, the bandwidth, the CPU, and we're figuring out how to update the model based on this whole RAM change where you're actually having to buy. But what we're proposing to do is take care of the RAM cost ourselves. So once you do have a staked token on there, the excess unused computational resources from those $20, we monetize that through leasing, such as the Chintai, and I know that there's another app being proposed under the hackathon, the EOS hackathon, that the big one they're having. And through those apps, if we generate income, then that's how the whole application is monetized. And we can share some of that back with you in excess of what it might cost for us to continue adding value and improving the features. And what we plan to do is make it modular, where it's similar to Steam, where Steam is just a module where Steemit is an application that accesses that module, and you have Busy, you have Steemit, you might have others, and I know Everpedia did the same model where their article module is accessible to any app that wants to build on top of. And we borrowed that same structure where we want to make a trade module where trade stuff is the app built onto this trade module, and anybody can continue to build this this database, decentralized database of stuff for trade, and the owners can continue updating and changing status. And as soon as a trade is entered, then the blockchain itself will change the status. So if there's outstanding offers anywhere through any app, it'll immediately withdraw that outstanding offer, basically saying this thing's already traded and done. So it's pretty interesting where you can get paid to trade. Where else can you say that, right?
That's pretty neat. I've often wondered about, folks who are making new dApps, where do they get this kind of expertise and knowledge, how to design a good token economic model? And where have you guys gone to help get help with that, rather?
Sure. So we've built most of the design here in-house. Alex and I have built a few products in the past. Before we jumped into blockchain world, we're building a mobile marketing automation platform. And so we have some experience building front-end and back-end software development. And we're also on the smart contract side, since we're working to develop as the documentation is released. So EOS is such a new thing that as features come out and as they switch things around, we're looking to adapt this stuff. So we're getting help on the smart contract by Object Computing. So we're getting ready to announce that relationship as well. And they've been very helpful from the piece that we haven't quite mastered, which is the smart contract side of things. We're proficient in the node operation. We're beginning to build up our resources on the smart contract, and ultimately our vision is to have a couple C++ guys here, crunching away at the smart contracts as we polish up our knowledge base here. And from the front end, we handle many things here in-house, as well as work to outsource. We have some great advisors on our team. So we just try to put pieces together. Whatever we might be lacking, we outsource.
Nice. And so obviously it sounds like you're taking, as a block producer, you'll be taking some of the rewards and putting it back into your dApps, of course, and building new dApps as well. Sounds like you guys are doing good stuff there. That's awesome.
Yeah.
How much is that chestahedron in the background?
Yeah, you should see the other one we have. It's like you might be able to see it through the window there, but
Yeah.
It's about 5 feet tall and it weighs about 50 pounds, man. That's heavy duty. So,
Do some chin-ups in the chestahedron.
That's right. Try that.
Well, Bluejays, what other questions do you have?
Hey guys, so can you just let us know? I believe we've gotten the website and we've gotten your trade stuff out there and we've shared it with everybody in the chat. Are you guys going to be at the Tulip conference this year?
Yeah, that's the plan. We've been speaking to G and trying to help. I know David from 42 has been working hard to create an agenda, so we've been in chat with him this last Saturday to see if we can help on the agenda. So we definitely plan to attend. And I know you guys are going, so I'm looking forward to meeting you guys in person.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that too. Yeah,
you guys are awesome. Enjoying talking to you.
Thank you. Same here.
Don't let Kevin break your chestahedron by trying to do chin ups.
Keep me away from that.
I'll send you guys one. Send me your address. I got a handyman that just whips these things out in like 2 hours.
Wow. Oh, really? You trying to kill the UPS guy, huh? Well, so where are you guys going next? Where can people keep up with you guys at EOS SoCal?
So, on EOSOCal.io, we have our Telegram channel. We just opened that up, so we'd invite anybody to go in there and let us know what your thoughts are on trade stuff, some of the other tools that we have, like the transparency tool, just to chat in general, talk shop, by email, Twitter. So on our website, you can find all the ways to connect. And we'd love to hear from anybody. We're an open organization, and we love to talk shop.
Awesome. And of course, I'm looking at your timeline. The project roadmap for trade stuff is December 2018. So that's very good. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're working hard. We have the initial smart contract ready, at least the first phase. So Alex and I are sort of QAing that and working on the front end. This beta, the first beta one will offer simple, peer-to-peer trade, single item, no multilateral yet. And we'll be working to increase complexity of these trades and adding features, including the dispute resolution, the monetization through the leasing, and continue adding features. Right now, our hopes are to have it fully functional and good to go by December.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Caesar. We're honored that you took the time and to come on the show and also to announce your app on here.
Awesome. Our pleasure. It's been fun. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. Really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Thanks, Alex.
Thanks, guys.
All right, guys. Bye. Thank you much.
All right.
Good night.
See you.
Wow. That looks really cool. I've been looking at the website. What do you think about that?
I mean, I'm really enjoying it. I love their idea. I think barter is, of course, we've talked about this before about how barter can be transformed on the blockchain. And I like their idea of being able to, even if you don't necessarily have the exact item or someone else doesn't have it, you can do sort of a mix and match thing. But here comes the block producer panel. Everybody's coming in. We have 6 block producer candidates and Thomas Cox himself coming. So here they all come. There's Mr. Cox and Sharif and Sebastian. I believe, Sebastian, you're from EOS Argentina. Is that right?
Yep, that's correct.
And Sharif, we've seen you before from EOS Dublin. And Marcin, did I pronounce that correctly?
Yeah. Marcin from Tokanika.
Yeah. Hi, guys. Hi, everyone.
Hey.
Hello again.
Hey, guys. Nice to meet you guys. And
hello.
Sharif, nice to meet you again. Marcin, nice to meet you again. Thomas.
And Boy?
Yes. Hi. I'm here from EOS Amsterdam. Yes.
EOS Amsterdam. Hello.
Hello.
Good to meet all you guys. Yes. Or see some of you again. And Zhao Yu. Sorry. Is it Zhao Yu?
Hello.
Hello.
Good to meet all you guys.
And if someone has their YouTube, if you have your YouTube turned on, if you could mute that, please. It gives a little feedback. Goes back in. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us. So this is a block producer panel. We had our first one 2 weeks ago, and we just like to go through a few questions with you guys and sort of open the floor as well to have you sort of interface with each other. And of course, Mr. Cox here as well, just put out a new video that he recorded. So we've had a lot of new information in the last 2 weeks. So there's probably a lot to talk about. Actually, Mr. Cox, if it's okay, I'd like to have you sort of take the floor for a moment and offer your thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did promise one audience member that I would take a question on the air. I want to insert that here right at the beginning before we get into the block producer roundtable. And so take his question, then I'll tell you about that video I posted. His question had to do with the site he runs called staked.us, and it's they let people they hold other people's proof of stake tokens, and they harvest the staking rewards from various chains, and then they share them back to the beneficial owners and take a cut as middlemen. He's like, I don't think I can do that on EOS, can I? I'm like, dude, where do I start? Owning tokens you don't stake tokens for rewards. Block producers get rewards, and honestly, very modest rewards for being block producers. And you don't become a block producer by staking. You get it by being voted for. So it's a completely different model. His model, I'm sure, is lovely for those straightforward, simple proof of stake chains, but we have delegated proof of stake, completely different model. It's not going to work. It's not even that it's illegal. It just doesn't work, right? You can stake all the tokens all day and there's no reward flowing in from that. So sorry to disappoint you. And if you're thinking it, other people are thinking it, you can't be the only person wondering that. Welcome to delegated proof of stake. It's a different world. There's a lot to learn. So there's that. And the videos you mentioned, I posted 3 hours worth of video, 9 videos total, in a collection on Vimeo.com, with no index. They were just numbered. There was no hint as to what was in each one. And the EOS Canada guys went through and actually took notes and illustrated, so you could tell what things were said in which video. Thank you, EOS Canada. And I thought the whole thing was totally remedial. This guy, wonderful fellow, Mao from EOS Real, on his way from China through the West Coast, going to Consensus this week in New York, decided to come by Blacksburg, which involved flying into Charlotte and driving for 3 hours to get in here Sunday morning to meet with me for 3 hours. Talk about hardcore. And I'm like, okay, you can have me for 3 hours, but you get nothing special. We have to record it and share it, so you get no special treatment. And we did 3 hours. And I thought it was just totally, this is stuff I've said before. There can't be anything new here. It all felt very new to him. We posted it out on the Block Pros channel, and people were commenting, this is great, it's information packed, it's amazing. And I thought, wow, I've done a terrible job communicating. If this is new to you, I'm sorry. So we'll just keep repeating, we'll just keep carrying it out to you as often as we can. We'll use EOS Go, we'll use every other channel we can, and get everybody as much information as possible to help you with the fire hose that is blockchain in general and the EOS project in particular. So that was the big video project.
And Eve, and just in the chat, Eve just called you the machine. Thomas Cox, the machine.
Hey, that was the easiest 3 hours of content I ever created, okay? Somebody showed up, I hit record, he asked me questions, whatever's in my head that comes out is my answer. None of this is official, my employer's official stance or anything. This is my best knowledge of what I know in the moment. And, the code is changing. It could be all different tomorrow. Yep. Block producer pay changed 6 times in the past 3 or 4 weeks. And I know because I did the mathematical models on each one. And the block producers know because I kept trying to get them to check my math. And then it was like, oh, the model changed. And I was thrilled that Mao did not punch me in the face. And I'm hoping on my tour coming up, I'm going St. Louis, Detroit, Toronto, New York here later this week. I'm hoping that I will similarly be able to dodge the blows that may be aimed at me for all the many changes. And thank you all for being good sports.
Yeah, sounds like Thomas the
That's
Machine.
my opening monologue.
There it is. Well, thank you. That was great. And if you haven't gone back and watched all 3 hours yet, you should probably go. It looked like you guys were having fun too, so that was always good. Open the office on a Sunday and go in there.
Love this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's get into the questions here. And of course, the first one is kind of basic. It's just, what is your vision for the launch? And we usually we start off by going around to everybody and hearing their individual thoughts. So Sebastian, I see you first here from EOS Argentina. If you can go ahead and
Kev, if I may interject, if just so that for our viewers, before you answer, just please do a short introduction of yourself and tell us who you're representing.
Sure. Okay, well, hi guys. My name is Sebastian. I'm from EOS Argentina. We basically represent Argentina, I guess, the EOS community here in the country. The EOS community being formed for a couple of years. It started with BitShares team, so we have a nice community back then. And some of these guys were kind of like the ones who initiated the community here as like a year ago. We are 100% owned BP candidate. One of the differences that we have with other candidates is that 100% of the profits that we expect to receive from the BP are going to be used for the community here in Argentina to grow the ecosystem, to do trainings, to do events, meetups. So that's the main differentiator, I guess, we have. So going back to your question, what's the vision we have for the launch? It's going to be very excited. We are all very excited. We're a team of people who are in this for many years. I myself, I'm here for over 6 years. I've been since the beginning of Bitcoin. Most of the guys who are in the BP are also early Bitcoin adopters and BitShares. We have actually something very important that I like to mention is like we've been in the launch for BitShares for the BitShares blockchain. We have Witness in BitShares right now, and also we have one of the team members who actually is a Steam Witness. So I guess we are very excited because we have a lot of experience. And we've been following downline migrations for many years now, and this is taking it to a whole different level. Right? What is going on right now is super exciting for us. We were discussing with the guys today about the vision that we have for launch, and we were remembering back when the BitShares blockchain was launched. How it was and how Dan was coordinating the whole launch. And we were thinking, oh, who is going to coordinate this? So this is going to be very fun to see how this launching evolves through the whole process, right? So going back to your question about how we see, what's the vision we have for launch, we are organizing ourselves to be 24 hours online. So the vision that we have is we are already preparing a bunker where we all be there. Maybe some of the guys who are not in the capital of the country will be from their places, but we envision be working with 50 amazing teams all over the world at the same time. And I think that the work that all the teams are doing is amazing. We are coordinating. We already participating in 5 testnets. We are actually launching our own testnets today for the Dome 4. To be honest with you, we don't know what's going to happen, but we do know that we have to prepare for everything, right? So right now, we believe that EOS BIOS boot is a great tool. So we are trying, we are working very hard. We actually submitted some proposals to make a few changes, but we understand that it's very important to be prepared for everything. So So in case that something happens, I think it's important to also understand how to launch a blockchain manually. So I don't know. I guess back to your question, it's very hard to see what's going to happen, but we are going to be working very hard to prepare for anything.
Oh, thanks, Sebastian. Sharif, can you go next?
Yeah, hi guys. So I'm Sharif from EOS Dublin. We're a block producer candidate based in Ireland, also an independent block producer. I suppose moving on to your question of what do we see the launch going to be looking like? I think it's going to go well. I mean, you only have to look at the last drop of code last Friday, and within an hour or two, there's nodes standing up in all of the test nets and connecting with each other. We're still 2.5 weeks out. The quality of teams in the block producing network working together in the Telegram channels and standing up is, it's phenomenal. I'm an optimist by nature. I think it's going to be, quite unremarkable. I think it's going to launch. It's going to go well. It's kind of what happens after launch that's the more interesting thing. Getting 15% staked. How do we move on to the next phase? And the whole move between centralized bug fixing, where at the moment block.one are fixing everything, to after launch, if we do have a bug, how do we get that in and deployed? And that's the real interesting part.
Yeah, sounds good, and I love your optimism too. That's always good to hear. And so Marcin, as well, if you could introduce yourself, please, and tell us your vision for the launch.
Yeah, hi everyone again. I'm Marcin. I represent Tukenica, which is a Polish company. We funded it about a year ago, but we come from a long tradition of supporting DPoS. Also, like Sebastian said before, we've been around since the launch of BitShares and probably even before that. So we witnessed all these things in their early days, and right now we're really excited that this has gone so far. And as to the launch itself, it's actually a bit like predicting the weather, it's we kind of see where this is going right now, but and that there is a lot of good communication happening between all the BPs and on all the lists and forums that we follow. But anything can happen. There's probably a lot of unknown actors that will sort of crawl out of the woodwork and will try to derail some stuff. So there's a lot of stake involved in this. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some dubious happenings also, like the DDoS or whatever other forms of attacks and things like that. And we need to be prepared for that. And I think this is more of a, I would see it as some sort of a surgical procedure that needs to happen rather than some sort of a competition or on who does better like that. I would love to see it as a very sort of a coordinated work that is well communicated. And actually, I think that the chaos in the information flow, because of its abundance, is such that it will have to pan out somehow. I don't believe that there's going to be room for any sort of, I don't know, egos or opinions or whatever. I think it's all going to be happening too fast, and we'll just need to kind of work as an army of ants rather than some individuated organisms that are trying to do something specific. So I'm actually of good hope in how this is going to pan out, but I think we're going to have to be extremely conscious of everything around us, and also kind of expect the unexpected, like things like chain fragmentation, like there's more than one sort of big EOS trying to happen at once and things like that, which is what we've been discussing a lot already. And I think this is where the power is, actually, that we communicate constantly.
Yeah, thanks for that, Marcin. That's a very pragmatic viewpoint. Mr. Moss, Boy Moss, Could you please give us your viewpoint on how the launch will go and your vision for that?
Hello, EOS community. Welcome. Thank you for, let's say, inviting us here for the community, let's say, discussion. Let's first introduce ourselves a little bit. EOS Amsterdam is a block producer from the Amsterdam area, and we represent Europe essentially for the block producing part. EOS Amsterdam exists out of 3 legs. One is a legal leg, which is represented by Jesse Spray, which is a partner in our block producer candidacy. He is a partner in a reputable firm. The other leg is let's say, it's Red Outcat Pool, who is an entrepreneur for 20 years and has done, let's say, runs a security operations center. And let's say that's me, the CTO from EOS Amsterdam. And I bring, let's say, 20 years of software engineering experience to the table. Our vision of the launch is that we, of course, follow the Telegram groups very carefully. And we see a lot of movement and a lot of questions being asked. But we also see, let's say, people converging towards, let's say, a structured approach in doing the launch. And we are really happy to see this happening. And what we expect to happen is that a selection of block producers, the serious block producers, will form a mesh network, and let's say, which will run stable for a few days. And at that point, essentially, the network will boot. And after verification and validation and checking if 50% of all the tokens are voted, it will, let's say, probably be a very smooth process. We will probably have, maybe we'll encounter some of, let's say, some problems, but the nice thing is, because we have such a flexible and knowledgeable community, that those problems will probably be solved pretty quickly.
Wow, it's great to hear. Yeah, thank you. It sounds like you have a lot of experience. So it's EOS Amsterdam, and we'll go to Zhao as well, please. And if you could introduce yourself, Zhao, and then also describe what your vision is for the launch.
Hey, hi everyone. My name is Zhao Yu, and I represent EOS Lamo, the VP candidate, and we're based in Japan, Tokyo. But the most team members are from China. We just love this place, so we stay here. Me myself, I have a 6 years development experience, both front end and back end. My previous job is a full stack developer at a Chinese company, focusing to teaching Chinese people English. 6 years. That's my only job. That's my first job, only job. Then I joined EOS Lamo team and do this BP candidate thing. And our vision for the EOS launch, I think, we saw massive collaboration, and which is really touching. We participate Bounce Boot session with Alex. I think about 2 weeks ago, and he's really passionate. And then I know that like he has 5 children to take care of, right, at the same time, and also the area, the community testing, the sleepless Eric, right? Yeah, he doing a lot of work to maintain the network and help a lot of people. And we finalized our BP infrastructure, technical infrastructure. We learn a lot from the community, and so we see this as a massive collaboration. And we really appreciate it, and we learn a lot from that. And I think, or we think, the EOS is like the biggest DPoS experiment, right? It's going to it's exciting. It's like, well, creating the future or predicting the future at the same time. And yeah, that's how we view
And Zhao Yu,
the
go ahead.
EOS launch.
It sounds like there's a bit of a delay there, Zhao Yu. You have a bad connection, it sounds like. What we'll do is we'll move forward to Ravi, but you may, if you have a better connection somewhere else in the building, it may be worth, because we heard about 75% of what you said, and what we heard was pretty good. So, but we'll go on forth to Ravi and see if you can find maybe a better spot with better connection. So Ravi, where are you from and who are you with, and what is your vision for the launch? And Ravi, you may be on mute.
Yeah, I just got myself unmuted.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm Ravi Narayan. I'm with block.one. And where I'm from US and also India. So block.one is more involved in areas of blockchain consulting and product development, plus majority-wise into EOS development. That's where we really got jumped into it. I myself have about 25 years experience in areas of product management, in databases, in networking, and including being a software engineer. So even now I'm kind of get my hands dirty with some level of coding, and especially with EOS, it's been a lot of sysops, DevOps type of stuff that I've been working on, and it's been an exciting thing. And right now, I just came to India just for the sake of building some of the support organizations that's required. Now, just coming to the point of the launch, I think these are exciting times. And what I see here is there's a lot of unknowns, and the fact that we have so many different test nets that are running, and the experience across each of them is so entirely different. And so there is no collective information that's flowing through. Even though we have a launch group that's composed of all the different people that are involved, each day we are talking about a lot of different things that needs to go in terms of VPN, DDoS, and there's always this talk about having a collective VPN for everybody, a must, and there's some opposition to that as well. So trying to get a coordinated feeling of what's going on is something that's highly important here. And for me, having worked so many years, I kind of feel that trying to get a release and within 2 months, within 2 weeks, trying to get everything right is definitely going to be a challenge. So we kind of have to prioritize a lot of things to get there. And I do not know how many more releases are there between now and June 2nd, and how we are all going to sync with all that thing together as either multiple separate test nets or a single one, and how, and whatever is the fallback plan in terms of say something is not perfectly working, or we still need some more time to test through or anything like that. So those are things I think we should really think about also.
Well said. And go ahead there, Bluejays.
Good, guys. Thank you, Ravi, for that. Now, the next question we'll leave as a open question, and you guys can chime in when you would like. So, and we can take turns. The next question is, what challenges do you see in the launch itself? And I know some of you have already expressed what you think the challenges are, but talk about what are the biggest challenges, the biggest risks that you guys see. And please speak up and then let others. Yeah.
I'll start. I'm Thomas Cox.
Okay.
Because we've never done this at full scale before, and we don't know exactly what problems will come up, I will suspect there will be some chaos and confusion and maybe even some finger pointing, although given how collegial everyone's been, the finger pointing might be minimized. But certainly like, wait, who's going to do what? And, you know, are we on Telegram or for this, or are we using Keybase? Wait, I was going to talk to you on Google Hangouts. And I would suspect that between now and launch, we might want to do some really like malicious planning or anti-malice planning and a little chaos monkey thinking, and come up with, you know, hierarchies of how we want to disseminate problem reports and potential solutions and whatnot. And I say we as if I'm one of them, but you know, I'm gonna be. I got a bowl of popcorn and an unopened bottle of champagne next to me as I'm watching this unfold. You know, I can't even. If I wanted to help, I wouldn't know how. So it would be on me technically. But that's the kind of thing. It's going to be human factors. It's going to be responding in the moment, on the fly, to the thing that you didn't anticipate, and being able to communicate around the world amongst the, you know, the 21 elected and plus the appointed, plus the BIOS boot node, plus 22nd through 30th place are the most likely to move up. And then the rest of us are going to be sitting around going, why am I not being voted for? And you know, trying to keep the morale of your team up when maybe you didn't get the votes you wanted. When doggone it, you had such a compelling story. Or you see somebody struggling that you know you could do a better job than they could, you think maybe. And how do you not say something snarky because you're disappointed? Those seem like the most likely off the top of my head.
Yeah, I get the second. I really agree. And I think that the biggest challenge is going to be how we get to that hierarchy, right? How do we determine who we will follow, who will be in charge of what, who will be, what happened if there's a bug in the code, who's going to fix it? So how can we trust that fix? So I guess that will be, in my opinion, the biggest channel. So the biggest challenge is it's not a technical thing, but it's more like our organizational part of how we get to an agreement.
I agree
Yeah,
completely. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
I believe, I think we have a lot of very smart people working up here. There's a few things that I think we want to define as to what is code complete and what is like 99.99% of, you know, the quality control or what's being done. And what I see the challenge here is to educate maybe the first 15 or 20 who are the smartest guys who can just work their way out. And plus the rest 100 or 110, 20 people, there are like 200 candidates, right? So how do we get everybody in lockstep in terms of understanding the whole process, whether we need a tutorial or something which kind of explains a lot of things that needs to be understood. Because we don't want a situation where come launch, like some people are ahead and some people are behind, and that kind of thing. So it's a lot of coordinated planning that I see still hanging, and like real risk analysis and what are the alternatives are some of the things that we should really look deep into.
Thanks, Ravi. Martin or Boy, I believe you had something.
Yeah, I was gonna say that this whole process right now reminds me of we're just kind of like a swarm of little insects that are getting to know each other, but they haven't taken off yet. And as soon as the swarm takes off, we actually have to follow one. And this is what we're trying to figure out right now, probably. But I do think that what is really important, we need to be ready for the chaos, like mentally, even if it's not good state to be in, because we like to know things. And like Ravi pointed out, correctly. There's a lot of things hanging and they get like uncovered every day. So probably just paying attention to whatever needs to be known and minimizing the chaos is probably the best we can do. I think this is like this is kind of like watching our step even right now, and exactly acknowledging like what we don't know, and then what needs to be found out before this even gets attempted. There is also, at least in my understanding, like even if we don't get it off the ground right away, there's ways out. Like this also needs to be known, how to redo a failed attempt. I think that would also comfort a lot of people in these groups, because if everybody is just very uptight and what if we fail, and then just, you know, that's a different sort of a mindset, that having a failover plan as to the launch itself. But again, like I see this unfolding across many channels, and I think that the actual problem right now is that we don't have a common platform on which we could communicate everything. And like kind of like Thomas mentioned, that someone thought that we were communicating on Google Hangouts and someone else thought something else. And there are a lot of very smart people that could probably lead the herd. But since this is a global happening, which is so unprecedented, it is extremely hard to imagine how it's going to go. But this is doesn't sound very concrete, but this is where we're at, I guess, you know.
We also noticed this on the, let's say, on the Trinity group, because when we started the Trinity group, then of course you get a lot of different candidates involved in essentially, let's say, thinking up a launch process. And then essentially one part of the group wants to automate, like completely, let's say, every step of the process, so that you essentially use the code and essentially an algorithm to determine the process, because then automatically you get a certain kind of consensus. That's one part of the philosophy. And then the other part is thinking, well, let's do it manually, because then essentially we can rehearse every little step, and then every block producer knows exactly what to do. And I believe, as in many things in life, of course, there should be a balance in this. And you already see this happening with 3 different groups converging to one. And essentially this one group essentially already starting, let's say, a Google document, and already starting to, let's say, under this evolutionary pressure of, let's say, launching on the 3rd to get aligned and get, let's say, consensus on every little step that has to be done to essentially launch the platform. So it's my belief that we will probably decide in the coming 2 weeks if we go, for example, with the road that EOS Canada already paved out a little bit for us, or make another solution for this. But let's say it's my belief that we really need to automate. Let's say go for, let's say, a hybrid approach of let's say automation and some manual backup.
Yeah, that's a great point. Well,
thanks.
Sharif or anybody else have anything else to add to there?
I think. Sorry, you go
Sharif here.
first.
Go ahead, Sharif.
It's just to reiterate a lot of the points that the people are saying. I mean, the real challenge is we're launching this across every time zone in the world with teams all around the world. So I think, as Thomas Cox said, you know, we need to know what communication platforms we're on. We need to know how to talk to each other. We probably need BPs within various regions to be, you know, tighter communication, and then be able to communicate across the time zones also. But it's a challenge. But I think all of these challenges are, you know, recognized. People understand what they are. And as I said at the start, I'm optimistic that we'll find solutions for them.
I'd like to suggest something. Since we have all these different testnets running and we come across so many issues going on, if we could have an observer from block.one on all of these networks, that's definitely going to ease out a lot of pain. And as I see, even at this late stage, we are fighting with a lot of configuration problems, and consensus has been a lot of issues. And on many test networks, we were, kind of kickstarting the old car again and again, and then sometimes it keeps running and sometimes it falls down. And so people have worked some magical ways of getting through this stuff, but that's not the most desirable way. And I think in real life, there are smart people who may be able to get it run and push the car once the launch is done. But with a depots like this, with only 15 people, needs to be totally active out of 21. It's a totally different ball game than having a POS, a generalized POS or a POW. So that I think we really need to get deep into understanding, how we make this a foolproof process for anybody. And for example, I want to tell you that even there is a lot of communication managers kind of things for products that were developed by IBM. I had come across a scenario where the first APPC had a configuration which was so complicated, and to even have somebody sit down and understand it and go through that and configure their servers and clients used to take about 2 weeks, 3 weeks to properly do it. So we have kind of challenges like that I think we need someone to get in there and help us the way through as a group.
I think you might be hard pressed to get any help from block.one. They're just putting software out, but that's just something I'm reiterating from what they've already said. So
I really don't want anyone waiting by the phone hoping that block.one is going to return your call over the weekend during the launch. This is the community launches or doesn't launch. block.one is only publishing software.
So would you say that the decision to launch will be totally on the community come June 2nd? Yes. Looking at the preparedness of the code?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll launch, don't worry.
Yeah, there's a lot of confidence in the community, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm totally confident about the community. Again, like I mentioned before, we see this process before with B-shares, with Steam. So it may be hard in the launching time, maybe come problems or whatever, but I'm totally confident on the technical capability of all the VPs that we are working in the testnets. And I 100% confident that we will launch. It may not be the first one who may have something, but we will reorganize and get it fixed. I hope it's going to be the first one. But if it's not the worst case scenario. It's not the end of the war. We should revamp again until we launch it.
I like that style. It's not the end of the war. Yeah. Go ahead there, Bluejays.
Kevin, I was just going to say that speaking of some of the challenges that were raised today and the conversation me and you had earlier on with having a war room for our live stream, I think if anybody had a hard time finding contacts with other people or they needed some minor support, you could always reach out to EOS Go during that time. Not that we would provide any technical insight, but we would definitely try and connect.
Yeah, we'd certainly we'd give you
service.
And I'm actually curious. So this is a little off the cuff in terms of the questions, but Thomas has mentioned, and was mentioned in the last block producer panel as well, about the security kind of trials, attacking each other, running some security audits with each other. Are there any plans in the works that you guys know of, that something that might be taking place or might be happening soon? And anyone is free to jump in.
Do you mean in preventing DDoS attacks, or let's say security attacks on the network?
Yeah, someone volunteer as the bad guy and then try to DDoS as others launch, kind of thing.
Yeah, well EOS Amsterdam partners up with Kahuna, and they have some pretty good security people, let's say, on the team. And let's say we were thinking about essentially doing some stress tests on our own infrastructure. because we were thinking about, so we were engineering an anti-DDoS scrubbing net. And let's say the idea arose, but that just was recently, but we were thinking about this to actually design some kind of, not a test net, but like a stress net. And let's say different block producers could, let's say, join this stress net, and then essentially they would be exposed to different levels of, let's say, stress. Yeah? So more like, yeah, we were thinking about calling it, let's say, Dante's level of, let's say, hell. You know, so you have level 1 till 7, and then essentially, let's say, the different block producers would go undergo different kinds of attacks. But essentially, this would require a lot of, let's say, coordination and would require some resources. So we were just thinking about making this happen. But as the time is of course very short, you know, we're not really sure we will make it. But we need to essentially develop this for our own infrastructure. So we could, for example, do something in a community that we would, let's say, test other block producers, let's say, setup. Let's say with some heavy load and some heavy, let's say, IP spoofed DDoS attacks on their infrastructure, just to harden their systems. So if anybody is interested in this, we would happy to oblige in that fact.
Yeah, we were actually going to follow a similar strategy. We were going to DDoS ourselves first of all.
Yeah.
Because it's probably the easiest thing to orchestrate. Try to attack yourself, since we have like running experience with running a Steam node, which maybe some of you know. So this infrastructure that we're putting up in place is sort of fireproof on the Steam network, and therefore, like, DDoS happens there also, and there had been multiple attempts of taking the nodes down. So we're going to run one of these tests on ourselves and try to see how it behaves, just to make sure that all the inlets and outlets on EOS actually behave in a similar manner. Well, they should, because the bare bones underneath are quite similar, but we need to know this for sure. So maybe we can exchange some, if we actually find the time to do this, because we have been so hectically busy. We just released this EOS Factory today, this smart contract testing platform on which we were working for many, many months. So you guys might want to check it out also. It's like a unit testing, and everything is there. It's kind of like a truffle on Ethereum. But now, since this is out, we're actually going to focus 100% on the infrastructure and everything that there is to be done. So the self-inflicted DDoS is also in the works. We might actually exchange maybe some information if you guys try the same thing, how it went and what you did to prevent it.
Yeah, perfect. We will.
I think there's a great article about DDoS by, I think, EOS 42. I'm sorry,
yes.
EOS 42. DDoS mitigation.
Yeah.
I think it's worth reading. It's a good article.
Yeah, it's really excellent, actually. They came up with the conclusion that they basically go through multiple prevention techniques and run a proper test on that. So I think they're, like, to keep it short, their findings are the Google load balancing is very effective on this. So everybody take note.
I was going to mention that, right? There's a lot of discussions about launching in cloud, and we are not so much concerned about DDoS, because Google Cloud really has an amazing solution for that. So I don't know, for us, we are more concerned about vulnerabilities in the code, maybe. So we have a team of hackers, guys who really know how to find vulnerabilities in software. We already report a couple of bugs to the GitHub, to the main repo, and also in some of the test nets. So I believe that could be more challenge. I remember in one of the test nets, it was a case when when some instruction was run, the whole testnet crash or the whole node crash, the whole node that made that transaction. So we are more concerned about that happens, and that's why we have some guys who really understand the code that are going through all these little things, trying to find vulnerabilities in the code. And as soon as those are fine, we report them and try to find solutions for that.
You're talking more about like a Trojan horse type of attack, like something that
maybe small bugs or something in the code. I remember there was one that we reported that I have the GitHub over there from the main repo. It was a little thing, but it crashed your node, right?
Okay. All right, great set of answers, guys. Kevin, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, go ahead there, Bluejays.
Okay. I think we've gotten the answers so far for that question. The next sort of question we had, which is a real sort of, and someone mentioned before, check your egos. But this type of question is sort of meant to help that kind of community aspect come out. Who do you trust? Who do you have confidence in as not other than yourself, but other block producers in the community? We can start with Lao Mao.
Me, okay. Well, the first I think is EOS Canada. We have tested the Bash boot with Alex, and actually we help him translate the document of Bash boot into Chinese, and we also held Bash boot session in Chinese community just to make sure that when this is the solution and when some Chinese BPs are selected to be the ABPs, that they know how to operate, how to go through the steps to launch the mainnet. And the second one is, I think, EOS crypto lines, I think, because we connected to their Django testnet really early. And I think the Django testnet is really stable, and they put a lot of efforts into building it, maintaining it, and that's the two teams I want to mention. Yeah, thank you.
Sharif, how about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say those two also, but I'd also throw in the mix EOS 42. Charles and David are doing a really good job. Charles has done a lot of DDoS work. So they'd be my three: EOS Canada, Crypto Lines, and EOS 42.
Cool. How about yourself, Sebastian?
I think there's a lot. It's very hard to choose a few, to be honest with you. There's a lot of guys who are doing an amazing job. If we have to pick someone up out of the blue, I guess EOS Canada is no question. The guys are doing an amazing job with what they're doing. And EOS New York is also doing an amazing job, and Crypto Alliance with their testnets. We are in the testnets from the beginning, and they did an amazing job. But again, it's very hard to just mention a few because there's so many, right? Sometimes it's hard to, because if I have to tell everybody, there's many that they're amazing. I'm confident on like I said before, that we have an amazing team to launch the network.
Cool. Martin?
Yeah, we seem quite equivocal about EOS Canada here for obvious reasons. Like they've been supporting this a lot, and also on a very technical level. So it's probably a no-brainer. Also, EOS New York, they seem like really helpful and sweet people. So we're also extremely involved. I was going to mention the Crypto Alliance actually, and I thought I would be the only one, but yeah, it's clearly not the case. but I also I would second what Sebastian just said. Like it's I feel we're in good hands. It's just that the hands, there's so many, you know, so you kind of, it's like a rock concert. You just take a dive and something's going to catch you somehow. But I'm pretty sure we have a lot of skilled people on board. It's just that the communication part, that's where it's at, I think. Like if we would distill the communication out of it and make it clearer, then I think things would sort themselves out.
How about yourself, Mr. Moss?
Well, I also agree with, let's say, Argentina. As I say, that we have many people contributing wonderful stuff to the community, of course. But from my experience, because when I entered let's say the space, I first contacted the EOS New York, you know, with some basic questions on let's say the block producing part, and they were very friendly and very inviting. So they were very, let's say, an ambassador for the EOS network. So I want to thank them. Crypto Alliance, because they were, let's say, the first testnet that allowed us to join, essentially, their testnet. And that experience was also amazing because we were very responsive and a lot of energy was put into this. EOS Canada, of course, for their amazing work on the BIOS. EOS 42 for their work on DDoS protection. I also like, from the Asian side, Huobi very much, because I have personal contact with the representative from Europe, like Kevin Lin. I also want to thank him for his support here in Europe. And as a strong technical party, I don't know them personally, of course, but the Bitfinex, because of course they have, let's say, big, and they have lots of experience, and I believe from the technical part they will be able to support the network, like very, let's say, from a very solid point of view, because they have a lot of experience in the field. So that's something let's say, short list of the people I want to thank.
Thank you. Ravi? Ravi?
Okay, I thought you were going to leave me out from the hard job to be done. Since there are so many people, I basically, you know, a lot of help that has come from Crypto Alliance, I definitely like to acknowledge that. The amount of patience that Badal has out there has been outstanding, because even people who just get started even today as a new PP have been moving on pretty well on that testnet, and that's pretty amazing. And then Rio, in terms of Igor, has been very helpful in terms of a lot of stuff that we were trying to test out and getting opinions both ways. So that's about the amount of experience I have. And I'm very sure there are a lot of other great candidates out too, but we probably may not have gotten that close to many of them. So apologize for that, but I think we are all going to hang in together and make this happen.
Good deal. Thank you for the answers, guys. And I'd like to check in with Mr. Cox as well about his further thoughts on everything and any questions he might have for you guys.
No. I think we all know the problem set and the set of potential solutions. And my only advice is, somebody once said, you sweat in peacetime to avoid bleeding in wartime. And we've got a couple of weeks of sweating ahead of us if we want to not bleed at launch night. And by we, I mean you, because I'm just an observer at that point. If I can be of any help, if someone would like to say, hey, Tom, would you be so kind as to fill in the blank, whatever you want me to do, I'll pop in if invited to suggest something, promote something, be a hub for something, be an MC, roll dice, draw names out of a hat. I don't know what.
DJ?
DJ, sure. You tell me what to play and I'll play it. Guys, thank you for your courage in stepping up and bringing your incredible technical and social skills to bear. I can't wait to see what you do with it.
Well said, as always. Mr. Cox is always has something insightful and exciting to say. So thank you. That was great. Yeah. Any further comments from you guys before we go? Just anything we should know looking forward for the community? Just a quick 2 or 3 sentence answer from each of you guys about what the important next steps for BPs in the community might be in the next 2.5 weeks or so. We'll go ahead and start with Sebastian again, please.
Again. No, honestly, no. I think what we got from this call is like the share a key on the organization, right? So you got me thinking a lot about if there's any way to find that hierarchy, or if there's any chance to have a fail-back protocol in place, or with a parallel launch tools or manual tools. I hear here a proposal that one automatic launch and another manual launch. I don't know, but I think those are the things that I got from this call.
Good deal. Thank you. And we'll move to Sharif.
Yeah, I suppose we've got an interesting couple of weeks ahead. Not going into any more of the technical details. What I'm really interested in is, how do we finalize around governance, the worker proposals, arbitration? How does that all come, into a form that the community can pick it up and run with it and operate this network as a launch? It's going to be a really interesting time. I'm looking forward to it.
Cool. Thank you, Sharif. And Marcin.
Yeah, I actually like to second what Sharif just said. I'm really looking forward to see how these things around the governance are going to play out. This is actually one of our concerns, as there's been a lot of talks about arbitration and how this is going to be put in place. I think that really needs to be looked into very carefully, and sort of like the corner cases have to also be examined, meaning that how these mechanisms could be used against the system. For example, can you DDoS an arbitrator? Suppose you just want to, I don't know, pollute the system with stupid arbitration cases which are impossible to solve. Like what would happen then? Like these questions just keep springing up to our minds, and we're actually as a company, and like this is also for myself, speaking off the record, not just Tokenica, but I'm a libertarian at heart, and I don't actually believe that too much regulation and arbitration and all these things in place are a good idea in such very broadly distributed systems. I think that even when you work for the best intent and you think you have the best idea, actually the variety of stances on a very single case of whatever is so vast that it's impossible to do. So like for future of EOS, I would actually let the market decide what things are feasible and what things are not. And even if the conclusions are not to everyone's likings, then we have the voting protocols, and everything else, the forking and whatever else needs to happen, and we have to live with the results. I don't think that too much regulation at this point is good. This is something that I actually wanted to say on this panel from the very beginning. So it's not me hijacking the 3 sentences that you just gave me, but something that is important for me to bring this up, especially the DDoS of the arbitrators. This something that hasn't been brought up, at least to my knowledge, and I think it could take the system down if some people decide to quarrel over everything and see how the system handles it. You have a gazillion court cases, and then the block producers have to respond to each and single one of them. Like, what would happen then? Mm-hmm. I just wanted to get it out there.
Good point, Marcin.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you for bringing that up. And certainly the EOSIO governance channel will probably have a good time with that topic. That's interesting. I wonder what Thomas thinks about that as well. But for final thoughts moving forward to Boy as well, what are your final thoughts?
Well, very interesting question. So what's the next step for VPs and the community? Because let's say looking at the space, let's say for the last months, this is has been my whole world. But when the world looks at, let's say, our space, it's very small. And it is also, you see, with, let's say, the volume of, let's say, Twitter followers, YouTube views, and another kind of, let's say, metrics. And what I find very interesting, and what I think is very important steps for block producers to engage in for the future, is to get, let's say, the big players, which have the big users, and make a very interesting case for them to essentially onboard, let's say, massive amounts of users. And it's an interesting thing. Eh? We were talking about, let's say, in our group, is that essentially what you want to achieve is that, let's say, the EOS blockchain technology will become widely adopted, but to make it widely adopted, it has to be very simple and very usable, very, let's say, grandma proof. And that means also that, let's say, essentially that part of the technology will disappear, right? So how do you, let's say, balance this, right? So essentially you're making something beautiful, which you cannot essentially show or brand in that sense. So I think that's a very interesting challenge for block producers to have some kind of ambassador role to let's say, big companies. EOS Amsterdam was also talking to, for example, pension funds here in the Netherlands in the coming days to display the technology. Another thing what I find very interesting is the GDPR, you know, because that's a European thing, and we have been researching this, and also, let's say, our legal partner in the block producer candidacy is also, let's say, cracking his head about this. And we will be writing more about this in the coming period, and also designing some, let's say, libraries to facilitate, let's say, dev developers on the EOS platform to be GDPR compliant. And so there's also a very interesting challenge, because especially, let's say, in that field. So, well, again, thanks for inviting us, and yeah, we're very excited to see how this platform is going to evolve in the future.
Yeah, thank you, Boy.
Yep.
And Zhao Yu, what are your thoughts?
Well, one of our concerns is about the snapshot, right? Because launching date is close. And the other day we tried the Genesis, the snapshot tool provided by EOS.io. It's fairly okay. And I think mainnet launching, first thing is we want to honor as many as EOS holders as possible, right? We don't want to miss some people. You know, you're stay on the ERC20 token, so we want to bring as much as EOS holders to the mainnet. So I think one of our concerns, I think it's really important. It's about user onboarding. I think user onboarding to the mainnet. So I think at least the BPs should try the Genesis, generate their own snapshot, try to generate the snapshot and to verify that, and hopefully when we launch the mainnet, we will, you know, agree with their version, be honor as many as EOS holders as possible. Yeah, that's one of our concerns. And also, I think the BPs, especially the 21 elected BPs, maybe we should have some, I don't know, infrastructure standard, right, or recommendation for them to make sure the network is not that kind of vulnerable to attack, something like that. And I think the BP infrastructure group on the Telegram is really great, and we learn a lot from that. And I think it's a great thing. So I think, well, maybe we should have some standard. Is some kind of recommendation for technical infrastructure, both, you know, a cloud site, or if you're on bare metal or something like that. Yeah.
Good deal. Thank you, Zhao Yu. And finally, Ravi, what are your final thoughts there leading up to the launch?
Yeah, finally, what I think is we have both technical challenges as well as governance challenges. And I think at this point in time, at least, we should concentrate a lot more on the technical challenges. And I do second with Marcin in terms of the challenges in the governance area. The more lenient and more easier governance methods we start off with, it may be easier to add the more tougher protocols on top of it. Whereas if we start with a real stringent and not acceptable to many people, then we're going to, for each decision that's to be unbound, we may see so many different forks coming out of each of them, just like Bitcoin has happened. So I hope that's not going to be the case. And I think that things about drawing the lines between where the arbitrator power is versus the legal jurisdiction in each of those areas is something that we need to really look a little bit, lot more deeper into for the long-term viability of this blockchain. Because if some wrong decisions get made and it gets overturned in the court, then we all have a bigger issue at hand to deal with. So maybe we should have some better help from legal professionals in this area also before we jump in. That's about it. Thank you for having me. I kind of woke up in the middle of the night to be with all you guys, and so excited about it.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you, Robbie, and a lot of you guys. It's very late right now, all over the world. I know we have some from Europe, and of course, Robbie. And so, thank you guys for joining us. Really appreciate it. It's been a great panel. I've enjoyed it again. It's been wonderful, and thank you, Thomas, too, for coming on. But we'll let you guys get some sleep, and yeah, good luck with the launch. Good luck with everything.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, Bluejays, what were some of your quick takeaways there before we jump into EOSUnion pre-recorded interview?
Yeah, so I think the communication, the coordination, as like everyone said, it's probably going to be like a rock star concert, and Michael Jackson's going to be there, and U2, and all of these rock stars, and it's just about coordinating them. Who's, can we pull this thing off without a hitch, and that's obviously going to take some type of coordination and the confidence too is. I've seen it in the chat as well. We know this is going to happen, and it's just getting there, and we know it's probably going to not go perfect, but it's going to happen. So,
right, there's enough economic incentive there. Multi-billion-dollar network will launch. Somebody will launch it to make sure that there is some value provided to all the token holders and also the block producers who can earn more value from the network. So, we know it'll happen. It'll just be interesting.
Interesting. May you live in interesting times, right?
Yeah, and I love the war references. Of course, this is different in many ways. Won't be quite as violent, but in terms of just pushing forward and continuing, no matter what happens, even if there are attacks from malicious forces. So I think this will be a wonderful time. I think it's a historic event, personally.
Yeah, you're
back
right.
on with very fond memories. So, you ready for the interview? Pre-recorded interview with EOSUnion?
Yes. So
in China.
This is EOSUnion in China, and I believe this was myself and Top K-Pop. You were on vacation, I believe, and that was well-deserved vacation, Kevin, I have to say.
Oh, well, thanks. Hopefully you take one soon there, too, Bluejays.
Yeah. Maybe I'll go to Disneyland or something. Yeah.
Oh, well, you think about that, yeah.
All right.
I'm going to Disneyland.
Yep, that's for after the launch.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. All right, guys, we have EOSUnion coming up, and I'll kick it off right now. See you back in a bit. Hi, everybody. Welcome to EOS Radio. Today, we have Jimmy and Carrie from EOSUnion. Hey, Jimmy and Carrie, how you doing?
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Yeah.
Doing well. And we also have a guest co-host here, Jenny, Top K-Pop. Hi, Jenny. How are you?
Good. How are
Hi,
you?
Jenny.
Hello. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, me too.
Hey guys, can you tell us a little bit more about EOSUnion and also where you're located? And let's start off with the who.
Yeah, okay. I'll do that. Well, EOSUnion was founded last year at October by 4 co-founders, and we have much experience about some deposit nodes like Lisk and Ash. And actually all of us are all experts about EOS. We all read many times about the EOS white paper, and we know EOS that can just change, great change something about the blockchain, like high TPS, 1 million TPS, and flow of transaction. So we all decided to just devote ourselves in this in years. BP. So and among us, there are some of us are famous investors, and some of them are famous authors about this. So now we have and actually EOSUnion is the first announced public BP candidate, and one of the first community in Great China. And we have some, we have many multi-headquarters in Singapore, Australia, and one of them is in Shenzhen. So, and we have our own dApps and our communities that is more than 8,000 members right now.
Wow.
And and maybe I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Jimmy. I'm the co-founder of EOSUnion, and yes, it's my duty to communicate with communities overseas and some medias. And today another member is also online. He's Carrier. Hi, Carrier. Can you introduce yourself to EOS Go?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Carrie. I'm responsible for the investment on behalf of EOSUnion. So basically my job is to discover, evaluate, and invest in dApps, promising dApps teams or projects that is developing or about to develop on EOS. In terms of my background, I did all my higher education in Australia. My background is in econometrics, so I was a quant. And I also have a degree in management. I lived in Europe for a bit before I was back to China. I started my career in private equity and moved to venture capital. So the past few years, I've done quite a few M&A and startup investments. And also, I was responsible for a USD fund that invests in Israel. So I was back and forth between China and Israel for quite a few years. And now I'm a co-founder of a venture capital firm called Byte Capital. So we collaborate with EOSUnion to invest in dApps that are about to build on EOSUnion, about to build on EOS, but also, invest in other projects that are related to blockchain. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow, very good. Thank you guys for joining us today and appearing on our show. It's wonderful to meet and talk to people from all around the globe, and it's an honor to have you guys here. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, your program is very great. Yes, I saw that on YouTube. You have many audience.
Thank you. So Jimmy and Kerry, what we normally do on the show, we do who, what, why, when, and where. And I guess we covered the who. So how about what? Like, so you are running for block producer. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. I think the success of EOS is based on some basic conditions. One of them is actually most of them is about the ecosystem. And if EOS want to achieve success, then that means EOS must have a very strong and very powerful ecosystem. That also means the communities which bring EOS to success. So that's the reason why we just take part in the BP candidate, because we have much experience about that. For example, to me, I was a product manager of some very big internet products in China. If for more than, let me say, it's 500,000 users. I have such experience, and I know how to run community well. I also the charge of a big community program in China. It's called I think million startup in China. So I know how to run community well. And the second is about the network. Actually, a strong network is also the basic of EOS. So we also, as I just mentioned at the start, we have experience about maintain risk deposit nodes like Risk and Ash. We already maintained that for almost 2 years, and we know how to do that well. And the last reason is about the depth. It's very important for public chain, and we have expert develop expert about that, and we also for example for Kara, she also developed some good apps among that, like a token packet. It's a very good values for wallet depth for that, and we hope to find more and more from our communities, and to make as our vision to make EOS great. Yeah.
It sounds like you have the right experience and running Lisk DPoS nodes.
Yes.
And you also know a lot about community, and you know about the kind of dApps that would work well on EOS, and that's a great combination.
Yes, that's our goal.
Very good.
So at the moment, then, what are you guys, up to at the moment, other than running for BP? What are you doing?
Well, we are actually we are holding just many meetups all over China. Actually, maybe all over some of them overseas. We already hold meetups for almost 20 meetups in many cities, like Beijing, like Singapore, and like some places all over China. And we also encourage community members to develop dApps right now. Maybe later we'll announce that we'll launch EOS develop match. Just it's a very big match, and if some EOS develops, they win the match, they will get a very high prize, and they will get investment from ventures by the capital and other famous angel investors in China.
Oh, that sounds exciting.
Yeah, it's a little bit like a EOS hackathon, but I think it's easier. EOS hackathon is very good, but it's for professionalists. But I think for now, one of the very important goal for us is just to enlarge the ecosystem of EOS. So that means we must let more and more people know EOS, and maybe change their development from other public chain to EOS. So yeah.
Yeah, so I'll add to that. So what Jimmy was saying is that now EOS is well known among the professionals, so people that are familiar with blockchains, but we want to expand to that. So we want to collaborate with a lot of universities, institutions, the developers that probably was developing on iOS or Android, but they're not so familiar with blockchain or don't know how to start. So this is a good match that for them to get familiar with, team up and find partners and find ventures for them. I think that is also the goal of not just sort of spinning in the circle we already have, but also expand it.
Good job.
Very good. And that's the goal of your meetups as well, is to create the community and grow the community. What other goals do you have
Yes.
for those meetups?
I think the core of EOSUnion is about community members. So what we're doing here, like I was lucky enough to be the MC of one of their meetup. So we were expecting about like 200 people, but 300 more came. So it was like so it was packed. So I was so surprised to see how EOS is getting the attention in China. Although I know like it's a very famous project. So what we're doing is in the meetups, there's a lot of people, coming stay late after the meetup and come to talk to us. So they are, from different places and have different backgrounds, but they all want to engage somehow. So a lot of our members, they voluntarily start smaller startups in their own city. So, geographically, China is so big that you can't really reach to every city. So what we're doing is we're maximizing the talents and the ability of our community members and empower them to, host those meetups in any way they can, and we will assist them in hosting those events locally. So that's what we're doing. So we have leaders from different cities, but we also do like official EOS meetups now and then. So that is how the EOS meetup is structured. So we have our own meetups, but also empower our community members to do their own meetups.
Yes, that's right. Yes, as Carol said, we already had more than 30 branches all over China. Actually, I think maybe worldwide. So now times we hold EOS meetup. I think once a week, just all over. I mean, almost everywhere. They will just hold a EOS meetup and invite people, and so we are teach them how to hold this kind of meetups and how to let more and more people know about that. Yes, and also about the meetup, Carol mentioned just now. In the meetup in Shenzhen, we also invited community members from overseas. I mean, such as Kevin. I mean, EOS New York. He sent us video, and Shannon. I mean, he's the ambassador of EOSphere. He also come to. I think maybe he's the first person. I mean, overseas community members come to China meetup for presentation. I think there's some gaps between. I mean, for Eastern people, Eastern EOS holder and the Western EOS members, they don't know much about each. So I think it's our duty to just. I mean, there's gap between them. So we want to be that bridge.
Yeah.
Just like EOS Go.
Exactly. I was just going to say, so what we do here is we try and be the neutral media for you guys to come, and you're always welcome to come on. We have a lot of bookings leading up to the launch, but yeah, you guys are always welcome to come back and talk to us.
Yes. That's what EOS Go and the EOSUnion have in common. Right?
Yeah, besides the investing in inviting like members from overseas, we also invited other BP candidates in China to talk on our show. So EOSUnion is a very collaborative organization. So we don't really see other BP candidates competition. I think everybody is doing a great work of promoting the project and trying to build an ecosystem. So we give everyone a stage that if they want to, promote themselves in front of our community members, they're more than welcome. So that is how things are going with us. So we're trying very hard to engage with overseas communities, but also like collaborate with BP candidate in China.
Very good. I mean, that's a perfect name you chose then, Union. So
yeah,
seriously.
Yes, that's right. Just the union award.
Yeah,
United as one.
Very good. I have a question about like, how is EOS viewed in China? Like, there are many other cryptocurrencies. How is it viewed in China?
Well, actually, EOS is very, very famous in China. I think maybe one of the reasons is about Daniel. We call him BM, Bytemaster, in China. I think he is the only person in this world who has built two successful blockchain projects. EOS is the third one. And, as we all know, BTS and Steam, they are all successful, right? So that's the first reason we know about EOS. And the second is there are many famous persons in China. They all know they all just know EOS, and they all write many articles to other people for education about how EOS works. They translate EOS white paper from English to Chinese, and they just transfer informations between different countries, just like that. So EOS, I think, is very famous. I think it's even more famous than ETH. I think maybe BTC right now.
Well, we like to hear that.
Yes. every meetup we hold, just like Karen said, we thought there will be just 100 or 200 people come, but actually that's more than 300 and more people come here. And about online activities, also more of them, and even more people, they are keep asking me, well, can you come to my city to hold meetups? And more people want to know here. Yes, just maybe that's I think Karen can have some different view from investment, maybe about EOS or debts.
Yeah, I think the popularity of the EOS tokens or EOS project is a very good demonstration of blockchain communities can grow themselves organically. So it started with pretty much like famous investors like talking about it, but then more people are drawn to the project, then they start to have their own small organizations and putting content, and then more people coming and to sort of dig into the project, and then it just sort of went from there and gone so far, from just few people knowing it, and now millions of people knowing it and holding the tokens and running and a lot of people organizations running for BP. So I think from an investment point of view, good things always sparks. So you just need to discover them, and I think that is how what's the case with EOS. I mean, it solves the problem of what the blockchain really needs to get mass adoption, which is the efficiency. It's the core, and also like the governance part is also important. I think 21 block producing nodes, the design itself sort of like really helps as well, and people running for BP candidates, and also the positive loop of running for it and promoting it is really a good design, and sort of like boost the project to the next level to gain global awareness.
Yes, that's right.
You know what? I did have one more question, actually. Do you foresee any challenges for EOS in China at all?
For EOS in China?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of challenges?
I guess maybe.
But yeah.
Maybe typical blockchain type of challenges, adoption, regulation. Maybe, I don't know.
Okay. So this is what I view about adoption, like, not just EOS, but the whole blockchain. So we do have the regulation issue, which what I call it the social element of, people adapting a major technology. So I'll give you an example of, like how automobiles all started. So it all started with the technology of steam engine being invented and the internal combustion engine being invented. But then that was like the whole tech boom. So people started to work on how we can build cars with those technologies. But then but then you have the business revolution, which the U.S. company Ford sort of introduced the flow production line into the car manufacturing, which sort of solved the problem of scalability and efficiency. So now we can build cars much more quicker and solve the supply problem. But then that is only the supply part. What about the demand part? So the third waves of adoption comes from a signature event that traffic lights were introduced. So people that knows how now we can, when you drive a car, when you see a red light, you need to stop, and that's sort of a consensus built globally, right? So now even in every country you go, like if you see the red lights, then you have to stop. So I think blockchain technology sort of at the first and second waves. So the tech boom and the business revolution. So what EOS is doing is solve the scalability problem of blockchain, and Bitcoin. What it does was like opened a new door for us.
Mm-hmm.
So what we need now is like the social element. So we need regulators, right? We need people that sort of can build consensus not just within the EOS community or Bitcoin community, but across industries. So that's how I think technology can really go mainstream to get mass adoption.
Well said. Very well put. Thank you.
Yes.
I don't have any more questions except other than what do you guys have coming up next? Is there any events that you guys have coming up that you want to let us know about?
Yes, we are going to announce that we are holding a global EOS development match just today. So it's a little bit like EOS hackathon, but as I said before, it's easier and it's easy for many people, and it's divided into 3 parts. And the first is about your idea. If you don't know about how to develop, don't know how to write BPs, doesn't matter. If I have a good idea about how EOS will change your life, will change will solve some problems, it doesn't matter. It just can submit your ideas online. And our website is bp.eos.ren. Yeah, you can submit it there. And the first stage. You can, and the second stage is about the BP, business plan. If you know a little bit more just about business, how business runs, so you can after you submit your idea, then you can write it down just as a business plan and also submit it. So we will pick up some good one and so you can come into the third part. The third part is about the demo. At this stage, maybe you need some basic abilities about how to run demo in public chat. So as we know, EOS is still on the development. So we don't ask you to run it on EOS. Maybe just you can run some kind of other public blockchain is also as well. So it means you can run it and you can show it to people. So and the reward, I mean the prize we prepare for this match is more than 1 million. And also as well, if your idea, maybe it's just only an idea or your business plan or your demo is good as well. So then we also have many famous investment just coming as well, like Byte Capital, like Manzi Capital. he's one of the, Xuan Manzi, he's our investor, and he's also one of the most famous angel investors in China, and sharing capital and others as well. And the reward for your project, I mean, the fund will be more than 10 million as well. So I think it's very good. It's a very good chance for people. It's maybe not only for geek, it's also for students. We also cooperate with students all over China this time. Already maybe more than 100 universities just ask them to join. So I think this is a very good chance for people to get to know EOS. And if you have idea, just we encourage you to join and get your rewards. Okay.
I think what you guys are doing is very good. You're bringing the community together. I like what you say. It doesn't matter if you're not a BP. We're not in competition with you. You're all about the collaboration, and you're about the union. You're about the education. I think that's excellent, and you guys are very inspiring in that way.
Yes, and we are yes. It's our honor to announce that EOS Go is also assisted us to hold this match for overseas. Kevin said they will help promoting just this news. Yeah,
good.
Yeah, I think match is just a format. I think it's also about people getting to know the project and expand the words about blockchain and sort of engage more developers into the community.
Yes, and I just almost forget. And Rose, the co-founder of EOSphere, I mean the Australian community, they said they are also love to just promote this match for Australia. We hope more and more community to join together. We just make more people know EOS. That's good for all.
Good for everybody.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Jenny, did you have any more questions?
Only other one, I guess, would be where can everybody find you guys? Like website, Steemit, Twitter?
Yes, you can find us here. We have our Twitter and Steemit. It's the name is EOSUnion, and our website is www.eos.ren, and another website is the website is the same, but you can visit from different domain name. It's EOSUnion.io. So you can find us there, and if you have some questions, you can also join our Telegram. It's also EOSUnion, or send mail to us, service@eos.in, and we are glad to communicate with you. Please feel free to do that.
Awesome. Thanks, Jimmy and Carrie. It was a pleasure having you on.
Yes, indeed.
Thanks.
You too. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, you guys are doing a great job, being unbiased third party to host those video and interviewing everybody. So I really appreciate what you guys are doing. I think it's great.
Thank you very much. Our neutrality, we take it very seriously. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, guys. Cheers. I'll see you later.
Bye.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Oh, hey. So we're back. What did you think of that interview, Kev? That was a nice interview with EOSUnion from Beijing, and that was awesome.
It was great. They really do live up to their name, as you said in the interview itself. It's all about community for them and collaboration, and Union describes it well. I thought that was a great interview. And they're based out of China. They were in Beijing, China?
Let's take a look at their website. I'm not 100%, but I believe that's what it was.
Yeah, they have a distributed team. When I saw it was Shanghai and Shenzhen maybe and a few other places, but
they mentioned quite a few cities. So
yeah, and they have a great the EOSUnion Cup they're doing as well, which is sort of like a hackathon/ideas. And we posted the link in the chat there, so if you want to check that out, you can. And we'll go forward to the news as well, Bluejays.
Mm-hmm.
You ready for the news?
I am ready.
All right, so let's go over to Dawn 4.0. Of course, the code released. We saw the original post a week and a half ago where they talked about the code release and they gave more details. And then Dan put up another post along with the code release, and it wasn't quite as detailed, of course, just talking about a few fixes like feedback on the Dawn 4.0 RAM allocation with the new 1% for buying, new 1% fee for buying RAM, and then also the 1% fee for when you sell the RAM as well. And he just talked about a slight. The community members are expressing concern that people will derive unjustified profits by buying up cheap RAM before anyone else can get on the chain. And so they're recommending, block.one is recommending that those who launch the chain start with a very limited supply of RAM and then gradually increase the RAM over the first few months. I think RAM is one of the primary, it almost sounds like RAM is going to be very important, I think, in the long run in terms of voters trying to decide what they want, right? They're going to want cheap RAM when they're trying to run their applications. And so if they can lower the price of RAM, they'll do so by voting for the block producers who had the most RAM. Eventually, I'm thinking. So it's curious to see how this will work out. It's a good recommendation. And we've seen block.one make a few of those, also recommending a couple other things. But what were your thoughts, Bluejays, about the updated RAM part that he mentioned?
Yeah, so obviously DApp teams are going to need RAM, and they're going to have to decide whether or not they want to, how much of it they're going to offload onto the chain, how much of their program that they're going to have to put on their chain, as opposed to how much they're going to be putting on storage. So where that processing needs to happen, they're going to need on-chain support, and they're going to need RAM to do those memory allocations that have to be done in memory. So it is going to be a scarce resource, and it is going to be a gamed resource. So the game theory behind supply and demand is what these latest decisions are about. So there's going to be a market around it, and they're just trying to limit the amount of speculation that happens. For example, somebody tries and buys up all the available RAM when they don't really even need it, just for profiting.
Yeah, hoarding RAM, basically, which is certainly a concern. It's one of those things where everybody's in their own best interest, right? Speculators want to make money off of hoping the price will go up. Dan is basically saying that if the producers gradually scale up their RAM over time, then the speculator cannot guarantee what the price of RAM will be in the future because the supply might be a lot higher. So he's suggesting that block producers don't come out right away and blast all terabytes of RAM, this and that way. That way the chain would have way too much RAM for what it actually needs. And so speculators would be more incentivized to buy up all that RAM early on, sit on it, and knowing that the block producers wouldn't have any need to update their RAM for a long time. And then the speculators would hoard the RAM and eventually sell it at a profit. So anyway, that was an interesting part of the Dawn 4.0 release. We'll go through it kind of quickly. The other part where they mentioned about the EOSIO system contract provides the implementation of producer registration, voting, staking, and resource allocation. So basically they added the parts to the system contract that says no one can unstake or do anything really on the chain until 150 million tokens have cast a vote for at least one producer or proxy. So 150 million tokens worth need to log in and vote for something for the chain to become active, which we've already talked about many times. And also if the chain wishes to allocate 10% of the tokens to block.one, it will rate limit unstaking to 1% per year. I did see someone in chat who got that confused. They said, well, is that 1% of the total stake per year, which means it would take 100 years for block.one to get all their stake? No, what they're saying is 1% will basically 10 million tokens per year. And so they're going to get 100 million tokens total, and they'll get 10 million tokens per year will unstake. We should also mention, this was not mentioned in the post, but block.one can vote with the full power of 100 million tokens for block producers at any point. That part they have availability to is just the actual token themselves.
So they will only be able to unstake for purposes of going into the market, but they will be able to vote their entire stake at any time. Right,
exactly. So if they decide they don't like a certain block producer, or someone is a bad actor, I guess they could throw their entire weight behind other block producers and get the bad actor kicked off, I suppose. So interesting. That's what Dan has mentioned in the past too, is that block.one will vote in their best interests should they need to. Mm-hmm. Of course, during the chain launch itself, we are not expecting them to take any action whatsoever. We've talked about that many times as well. And then they also go into anything else in the Dawn 4.0 release that you noticed that was interesting there, Bluejays?
I'm interested in the hacked account recovery and the lost password recovery just because it is just one of those worrying areas for a lot of people, losing their private key, and this goes a long ways into making this chain more usable. If you lose your password, there's a process in which you can recover it. So that being thought of by the block.one team, and that being highlighted and always being added to in terms of features, is just something that's going to make this chain a lot more usable for regular users out there, and I think that's just awesome.
Yeah, and I think it was Boy on the block producer panel. He mentioned the grandmas need to be able to use the chain in order for, or need to be able to use the apps that are on the chain in order for it to achieve that mass adoption. Need to make it pretty simple for folks.
Exactly.
Even with, and of course we'll need some kind of customer service. Maybe that's funded by a worker proposal, but just something very basic, or even the dApps themselves will probably fund that as well. Customer service to help users who do lose their keys, or they lose their tokens, or whatever the case is. And then the customer service team can go through the process of doing that account recovery, even though it still seems fairly simple. It may still be too hard for grandma. So she just needs to be able to call someone or chat with someone and say, hey, I need my account back. And then the customer service team can go in there. So at least it's possible, though, on this blockchain, whereas other blockchains, it was not.
Exactly. Yep.
That's certainly a start.
One thing, Kevin, in the last part of the article, when they mentioned that EOSIO 1.0 is coming soon, I did notice that they've implemented a feature freeze, and the next few weeks will just be dedicated to operating and testing internal test networks and fixing bugs. So they're not trying to implement anything new at this point in time.
Which says that the code that's out there right now is the code, basically, with all the features are already in there for EOSIO 1.0 that will be launching in June. Pretty exciting stuff. Yeah. And the test nets, I believe, are already working as well. So, yeah, Dawn 4.0, if you haven't tried it out, if you're not on the test net, you can always go and fool around. Even if you're not a block producer, if you want to just try running a node and seeing what the software is like, it certainly could be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
and there are a lot of tutorials.
And by no means is the 4.0 code perfect. I've heard some people having some issues, and they're definitely working out things. And with more than 2 weeks to go, I think we're in good shape.
Agreed. Yeah, well put. I've heard the same thing as well. It was a bit of some negative feedback about the release, but of course, like you said, there are bugs and whatnot they're trying to fix, and that's good that they're kind of dialing in and spending the last 2.5 weeks to 3 weeks really fixing those bugs.
Which is a lot of time in the dev world, so that's just awesome.
Yeah, especially with the amazing team that block.one has too. Yeah. Of course. So we should go to the next news, talking about bankers leaving the banking world to go to cryptocurrency. And guess which cryptocurrency gained to this banker? That would be EOS, block.one. So basically this Australian bank had a CFO, and he left. His name is Rob Jasudison, excuse me there. And he is now the group president and chief operating officer of block.one. What are your thoughts, Bluejays?
I mean, obviously it's this Rob found that EOS was a good step in his career, and I think he couldn't have made a better choice. I don't know much about the Commonwealth Bank, but I guess this getting this type of talent in at the higher levels of block.one says a lot. I know people have certain opinions about why he might have come, but who knows? People always have reasons, so that's my opinion. Yeah. Of course, it's a two-way thing too. In an interview process, there has to be two people who are interested, right? So,
good point. Yeah, and it sounds like the way Brendan Bloomer was talking about it in the press release on the block.one website, he was saying that they've been looking for a long time, and they finally found the right individual. As he said, an exciting conclusion to our thorough search for the right individual.
Excellent.
Yeah, and it also sounds like this gentleman, Rob Jasudison, he said blockchain will have a transformative impact on most industries in the coming years and will redefine operating models by streamlining businesses while also reducing cost and risk. So this is from our new COO, or the new block.one COO, I should say. He's the one who said that, and he's the one from the banking industry. So he will actually begin later this year. He is not starting yet. He left his other job, but he has to, following his notice period, he will join block.one. So he will...
Which is normal. Nice addition. That's normal in the industry. So,
yeah. So we should go forward. Let's talk about Thomas Cox and his sit-down talk with EOS Real. We mentioned this briefly, and Thomas talked about it at the very beginning of the block producer panel. But basically, one of the members from EOS Real, which is a block producer candidate, flew out to Virginia, drove a long ways, made a long trip to arrive in Blacksburg Sunday, which is yesterday when this is being shot. And they sat down for about 3 hours and they went over a whole bunch of questions about block producers and candidacy and all kinds of different topics. And they recorded the entire thing for transparency. And also EOS Canada has now put out a summary of what happened as well. A couple interesting notes, Bluejays. Did you look through the summary from EOS Canada, or have you watched all the videos? It's 3 hours worth of videos. There's a lot to see.
I did not get a time to watch it this weekend, no.
Well, it's certainly if you want to spend a quality 3 hours with Thomas Cox and EOS Real, you should check them out. But so they went through the parity wallet on Ethereum where 300 million USD was lost and the bug was discovered. There was one interesting thing in here about the block producers love multi-sig capability. And Thomas talks about how arbitration cannot fix everything. And actually, I thought that point by Marcin earlier from Tokenika, he made a very interesting point I've never thought of personally. I don't know if Thomas has thought about it either, or if anyone has really, but just in terms of DDoSing arbitration, right? I'm sure a few people have thought about it, but just what is the solution for that, right? Do we get more arbitrators? I mean...
Yeah, it's a good point. So when you do a denial of service, you basically... put in so much volume that the system is not able to handle it. And what is the case in this point? If we have a pervasive error or a pervasive transaction that we just all need to reverse, then that's okay. But if you have multiple transactions all spanning different types of things that need a different case for each one, then in that case you might have a backlog. And if that backlog were to happen, you would, in essence, DDoS arbitration if we did not have a proper pipeline set up in order to distribute the work everywhere. So it's a good concern, and I think I'm glad it was brought out in this show, and I hope everyone's watching in the governance area so that we'd be able to mitigate that.
Sure. Yeah, and it's tough to say right now what the solution could be. I mean, obviously the idea is that someone would bring a whole bunch of frivolous cases to load up the arbitrators, and then the real cases would have a hard time getting through or going to backlog.
I mean, keep in mind, too, that there is roughly, Thomas mentioned it before, but to initiate a case costs roughly around $600. So that is going to be one of the barriers to entry into doing frivolous cases. But who knows how that can be gamed as well, too. Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And good point, too. I mean, glad you brought that up, but it certainly is one of the checks in place that should hopefully help reduce some of that. It actually brings us sort of to our next point on the news as well. This is from Ono. It was earlier today, and Ono put out an interesting Steemit post talking about how their code of conduct restricts any type of colluding with other block producer candidates. Did not specifically mention what was going on, but basically said that many EOS block producers have expressed a desire to cooperate with us, and she's talking about Ono, and have suggested that we share votes with them. From the principle of fairness, we will not say which ones we're referring to. And then it was actually Kiju, who we had on the show a few weeks ago. She's the CEO of Ono, which is a social network building on EOS, if you're not familiar. They rejected the idea, and they don't think that controlling the voting mechanism with regards to block producers forming alliances during the election period is a good move for the EOS ecosystem. So it sounds like behind the scenes there is some of that kind of stuff going on. And of course, could be a case where if there's a lot of money involved, maybe a $600 fee for arbitration is not that big of a deal in terms of trying to make sure something happens. Of course, we're speculating again. We might as well go talk about the moon and the price at this point. But it's an interesting post that they put out, and I saw it talked about a little bit in the EOS.io governance chat as well. Bluejays, what did you take from this post?
It was a very short post. It seemed to have been what we would call whistleblowing. And it obviously we don't have any details, and nothing was published. We also don't have any. We don't know whether this claim is factual or not, but it is out there, and it could be real. And I think putting it out there as part of her code of conduct was the right thing for Ono to do, and I think it was the right thing for her to do, and we'll see how it evolves things.
Yeah, and coming from a stance of whether it is actually happening or not, I mean, of course, like you said, we don't know for sure. We're just reporting the news at this point and what we know and what we see. She went about it the right way in my mind, right? Didn't call anybody out, just sort of said, here's how we take our stance on this. So leave us alone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the right call. And that sort of also puts out a call to other block producer candidates like, hey, this in our mind is not right. And we're going to call it out a little bit just to make sure it's on everybody's radar. I know Bluejays, you and I, we've actually received a couple requests in the past from folks who wanted us to sort of investigate more into these kinds of behaviors. And we try to resist that because whistleblowing is not currently part of our goal. It's not part of our goal. Certainly it could be for the health of the network long term. Maybe eventually we would have to get more involved or some other entity would, like an investigative journalism entity.
Yeah.
Neutrality is important when it comes to these kind of things. So we'll see how it all shakes
well
out.
said, Kevin. I think the function of whistleblowing and the function of investigative journalism will definitely be needed for the health of this network.
Sure, absolutely. We're basically building a digital commonwealth, right? You have elected representatives, the block producers. You have the legislature, which is the token holding voters, and then you also have the judicial branch, the arbitrators as well, and then of course the media, and that's us. So
yeah, we're not. Nobody here is trying to be fake news. We're just trying to, report and do the best that we can for EOS, empowering EOS first and always. That's our motto. Yeah,
that's actually, we should mention that more. It's our new kind of updated mission statement, which is empowering EOS first and always. That's what we do. There's no bias in what we do, and we're neutral first. So you'll hear more about coming up. And we should talk about, before we go to the meetups, quickly, we should talk about this particular show has been very long. It's our longest one yet, I think, by far. We're going to pass 3 hours, most likely. We should say that the last show we do before launch, which will be Monday, May 28th, that will likely be longer. It's going to be a marathon show, basically allowing any block producer candidate who has not been able to get on so far can get on that show. We are fully booked, but we are opening up that particular show to any block producer candidate who wants an interview. So let us know. Reach out to us. You can email us, admin@eosgo.io, or you can send a private Telegram message to Bluejays or myself as well if you'd like to be on that show. So we expect a long night, don't we, Bluejays? Could be a lot of interviews, but it would certainly be great for everybody to hear from and see their block producer candidates.
Yeah. At that time, it's coming down to the 11th hour. It'd be our pleasure to represent, give people some airtime that they feel that they need to be on at that time. Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
Yep. It aligns with our goals as well. I mean, we're here to empower the network. And of course, we want the block producer candidates who are eager to get on and would like to express themselves and make a name for themselves. We want to be able to make sure they get the chance. So that's why we're doing this. And furthermore, we're going to have more details about our live stream during the launch. It's coming up soon. And we're looking to make that a global community launch. You can check in. You'll hear from folks all around the world, block producer candidates, DApp companies, possibly even some block.one folks. We don't know yet. Or people who may or may not know anything about block.one. We'll see. There could be a certain name that you may know of already who may be on the show. So anyway, you'll hear more about that in the coming weeks. We're going to sort of talk about it a little more and also put out a call for anyone who is in the community and would like to check in or is a part of the launch and would like to check in as well. You can reach out to us. There will be a form for that as well. So Bluejays, anything we're missing here?
And just a little bit more about that. We plan to open a group chat in those few days. It's not an official war room or anything like that, but it's going to be something like, come on live, talk about what you want to talk about. It could be sort of that information clearinghouse going on as the launch is happening in real time. So that's our plans for it. And like Kevin said, anybody is welcome to come on it as long as you're empowering EOS at that point in time.
Right. If you're just sitting back eating chips, we may or may not want to hear your take on it, depending on how into EOS you are, how much you know about it. But we'll probably be eating some chips ourselves here on the show. So what can we say, right?
Yeah,
maybe have some champagne,
Dew.
Mountain Dew, right? Yeah. Same color, almost, roughly. Yeah. So let's go to meetups, and then we'll wrap this up, guys. Thank you for sticking with us here. It's been a great night. It's been a long night, but it's been wonderful. These shows are fun.
Yeah.
What meetups are you seeing there, Bluejay?
Well, I want to mention the Tulip Conference again, which is happening on the June 7th to 9th. We will definitely be there, Kevin and I, and we hope for it to be celebration of sorts, getting close to or have already launched the chain. And I think that's just going to be a great time. So if you guys want to attend, come and sign up at tulipconf.com. And hopefully it's supposed to be a great EOS meetup, a very EOS focused industry meetup. So that's something I'm looking forward to as well.
Well said. Yeah, the Tulip Conference should be a lot of fun. It's going to be a big celebration. As you said, there will be a lot of EOS folks there. And we will be celebrating, hopefully, with the chain that has successfully launched and reached its full 150 million tokens that voted. Everything else should be pretty wonderful. Talking about other meetups around here, we've talked about the EOS Canada, the EOS Nation meetups that are happening in Toronto. Thomas Cox is going out there for 3 meetups over 2 days. And that is starting on the 17th of May, I believe. Yeah, which is this Thursday. And then he's also doing on the 18th, which is Friday as well. You can go to bp.eosgo.io, and that is the block producer research site, but there's also a section for meetups, and you can see all the meetups that are happening. If you're in the Toronto area and you'd like to go, this sounds like this will be a big party with a lot of fun.
Yeah. Sounds like a good trio of meetings there, a good talent up there, and a good think tank up there in the University of Waterloo, York, and Toronto.
Yeah, of course, there's one famous name from University of Waterloo. He does not work with EOS. His name's Vitalik Buterin, I believe. I don't know if I pronounced his name correctly, but anyway, so there are certainly a lot of excellent technical minds that go up to University of Waterloo, and it's great.
Can you imagine Thomas Cox doing the Badger dance?
I don't know. Oh man, that was, that video went viral, I think, and the cryptocurrency, I'm sure it did. It went viral. And that's, you're referring to that Ethereum conference in Toronto. That was like a week ago, and they did that Badger dance. And I cannot see Thomas Cox ever doing the Badger dance. I don't think so. I don't know about Dan either. Maybe. Yeah. But how about Brendan? I think Brendan would do it.
Brendan might do it.
Yeah. What about the new COO, Rob? We don't know him yet.
Don't know him too much yet, so.
We need to suggest that maybe.
It'd be the first question that we have for him on the show if he ever comes on.
Yeah. Hey, do you do the Badger dance? Or we can put a worker proposal through. Can you guys do the Badger dance for us?
Yeah.
We'll give you 100,000 EOS.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, let's move forward. So actually in Seoul this weekend, I'm going to be there in Seoul, South Korea, going to a meetup with it's EOSIS, but there will be a lot of other representatives there, including Koreos and many other block producer candidates. It sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. Saturday, May 19th. We're going to have multiple speakers, including myself and all those other block producer candidates as well. So looking forward to that. Big travel week.
Have you good luck on your trip, Kev, but have you thought about a topic for that meetup?
We're going to be talking about the power of EOS and also the opportunity available, why you should get involved, and basically describing why this is a new brand of internet, right? I mean, for so many reasons, and why it's more than just, buying tokens and watching the price go up is a lot of fun, but there are more ways to get into it, I would say, than just hoping for the price to go up, which will probably happen. We're not price talkers by any means, and we don't know anything about technical analysis, but we believe in EOS. So if you'd like to get involved, certainly there are so many opportunities right now in new tech companies or, as a part of a media like us or whatever the case is, right? So anyway, we'll be talking more about that. And
on that note, I believe we also know of another one that's happening around the May 18th, 19th in China. We just recently found out about it, but it's supposed to be really big. It's a BP Summit, I believe they're calling it. So that one's also going to be interesting.
Wow. Where's that one held? I don't know if I've heard about that one yet.
So Myra from EOS Gravity tweeted it out, and I believe we can find a little bit more about that on Twitter, and we'll post it in the chat or somewhere else as well too.
Good deal. Yeah, we'll get that link and we'll put it up. Of course, in China, sometimes we feel like we haven't really heard as much from them. It's a very active EOS community, and you said it well during the EOSUnion interview. You asked them about EOS in China, and they said, "Oh, it's very famous." Mm-hmm. And Dan BM Bytemaster is also very famous and loved in China, which is great. So, and like they said, well, he is the only one who's made 3 blockchains at this point.
Workable.
Or is about to.
Yep, working ones.
Workable. Exactable. So exactly. I'm saying It's been 3 hours, folks, in the show. So anyway, we'll wrap this up, Blue Jays. What are your final thoughts here of the week?
Good to see the community coming together, gelling. I would say we're gelling. We're definitely calling out the right things. Where people are putting their individual selves aside and sort of working together at this point in time. Even though there's individual successes to be had, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing about this. It's in my mind, and I heard this said originally by Sean at the EOS Charlotte meetup. He calls it capitalism 2.0. Where if you benefit, I also benefit, right? Because we all hold the same tokens. And that's the great thing that's why folks are collaborating, or partly probably why folks are collaborating so well. I mean, because of course we need each other to be able to launch this network and make it successful, but also we're all vested into the same interest and all the incentives are aligned.
Yep.
So that's why it is kind of like a new form of capitalism. You can work hard for yourself, but you're also benefiting everybody else. And therefore they would like to jump in and help you as well. That's why working in EOS is a lot of fun. And that's partly what I'd like to talk about more as well. I mean, you have so much support from other folks who are strangers, but they have the same ideals as you and the same end goals as you, and they see the same things and believe in the same things as you. So you end up having wonderful working relationships with folks you barely even know. And of course, you gain friends in the process. And Thomas Cox talked about that before, about how many friends he's made now working in EOS. I think Thomas Cox now has what's the total population of the world? 7-8 billion? That's how many friends Thomas Cox has.
It's not bad he calls himself introverted, so.
Right. Yeah, not exactly, So yeah, wrapping this up, of course, follow us on Twitter, and Community Updates channel on Telegram is a great way to check in with all of our, whatever we're doing, basically. And we also put out other news blasts, like, for example, Dawn 4.0 release. We put that up there so you can keep up with the latest on EOS. Where else should folks keep up with EOS Go?
Not to mention our forums at forums.eosgo.io. It's still a great place to get information and also to collaborate and have conversations that are a little bit more structured and organized, and also have a nice history to them as well.
Yep, that's definitely true. Yeah. And we're always here to empower EOS first and always. That's our goal. We're neutral, we're unbiased, and we're very proud to be here. So thank you guys for checking in, and we will see you soon.
Thanks, everyone. Go EOS.
Go EOS.